Committee co-chair Otiende Amolo said they've agreed to hold a discussion within 60 days.
We have discussed the question of time. You will remember that we in Azimio had given a time frame of 30 days. Our colleagues in Kenya Kwanza had given a time frame of 90 days. We have agreed to constrain that time to 60 days. But within those 60 days, we have agreed that the more urgent issues that need to be dealt with will have been dealt with within 30 days, and that the rest take to deal with the rest of the issues.
Senate Deputy Minority Leader Ednah stated 5 issues raised by Azimio.
This is the list of issues for discussion as presented by Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition bipartisan dialogue team. 1. Cost of living. 2. Audit of the 2022 presidential elections results. 3. Restructuring and reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC and related matters. 4. Measures to prevent interference with political parties. And 5. Outstanding constitutional matters, including governance issues, effective checks and balances, and the question of boundaries delimitation.
Kenya Kwanza was represented by Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, who mentioned 7 issues.
1. Reconstitution of the IEBC Commissioner Selection Panel. 2. The 2/3 gender rule, the entrenchment of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, and the Senate Oversight Funds in the Constitution. 3. The creation of the office of the leader of the official opposition. 4. Resolving insecurity problems, including banditry and urban gangs, and proposing measures to deal with the impunity on the part of those who should bear responsibility.
The controversial Pastor Paul Mackenzie and 17 other suspects have been detained for 30 more days. Shan's Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda further ruled that the respondents be held in various police stations and treated in a humane manner.
The respondents shall have the right to communicate whether by telephone or other means with any person of their choice, and the persons in charge of the facilities at which the respondents are held shall facilitate the communication. G. The respondents shall be accorded medical examination, treatment, and health care whenever such need arises. H. In the event that the state shall seek an extension of the period granted herein, the state shall be required to submit a report indicating the general status of the investigations done so far and what is left to be done.
This is the total number of bodies exhumed in Shakahola Forest as 145 after 11 bodies were exhumed and another body was found in the forest in the second phase of exhumation. According to Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha, the body found in the bush had not been buried. Onyancha indicated that 2 people have been rescued, bringing the number of rescued people to 70.
Timu ambayo inafukua mili imeweza kuwa mili 11 na pia tumeweza kupata mwili moja kutoka kichakani. Tuko na mili 12. Wale ambao wameweza kukamatwa kufikia sasa ni watu 25. Tuna ile timu ambayo inatafuta wale wenzetu ambao wako pale msituni, imeweza kuwanusuru ndugu wetu 2 ambao walikuwa pale msituni.
So far, 70 people believed to be followers of preacher Paul Mackenzie have been rescued from the ongoing operation, while 579 people are reported missing and their families. In addition, 14 people have been reunited with their families.
Na pia wale ambao wamejiandikisha kwamba wanatafuta ndugu zao ama mama zao ama familia zao wamefika 579. Kuna watu 14 ambao wameweza kukutanishwa na familia zao. Wale ambao wametoa chembe zao za DNA bado ni 93.
And 2 people died and 11 others injured following a road accident involving a truck and 4 vehicles in Migori County. Police boss Makwa Njala says the truck driver lost control, ramming into packed cars and pedestrians. This comes as 6 people died at the same spot last month. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
So who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, so is there traffic this morning? What's going on where you are? Have you left? If you haven't, now might be a good time to do so. If you have and you're on the Thika Superhighway, you'll find that not much traffic has started to do this morning. Still slim pickings as we're looking at it getting into the CBD, so you should be all right, at least for now. Let's see what else is going on in different parts of Nairobi. And then looking outward, there's a lot of fog as you're looking in a westerly direction. That's coming off of Waiakwe. And so the clouds are low, it's misty, it's foggy, it's all of that. So you want to have your fog lights on and make sure that you're seeing where you're going this morning. In terms of traffic then coming into the city, coming out of Westlands, that's not too bad. We're seeing a little bit of build up on Jogo Road. It's going to take you out towards Landis, and maybe it'll pack up in a short while, but for now it looks pretty good, and it looks like Thursday may not be too much of a headache traffic wise. Let's keep an eye on things and see how it pans out. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this Thursday.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
All right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Day of May 2023. Yes, we're here. Mama, we're here.
We here. They here.
The show must go on.
We all here.
Yes. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Habari ya leo, mambo iko namna gani? Wewe je?
Mimi J. Mimi N. I'm fine, thank you.
Wewe J, wewe N. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you? What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Iko.
Yeah.
Iko wewe. Sawa basi.
Hey. You had a good day yesterday?
I'm trying to remember what yesterday was. Yesterday was Wednesday. It wasn't bad, actually. I felt like I was wafting in between reality and idea. I don't know what was going on. But there was a moment there where I wasn't really there for a couple of hours, and I bounced back, and voila, it was 6 p.m. So maybe a moment was a little bit more than a moment. I think I'm all right.
You will be all right.
Okay, thank you. The encouragement does something for me.
Sijali, you are not all right.
But I will be.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, my dearest.
Don't be at any.
I mustn't think too much of it.
No.
Okay.
No.
Sawa basi.
Just let it pass.
Okay.
Just let it slide with the things. Sawa.
Ni sawa basi.
Yeah, everybody. Karibuni
you?
sana.
You're fine.
Mimi, I am very fine, thank you. Yes.
Wonderful.
I am. There's that cough that's threatening to come
do
back.
something?
What? But I hope it doesn't.
Simple.
Not with the kind of conversations we'll be having today. Hey. The book For the Record is out by Ednah Duale, the inside story of power, politics, lawmaking, and leadership in Kenya. Yeah. So the book is out. It's a beautiful cover.
Is.
It's a nice, beautiful cover with a foreword by the president himself. I have my copy here, signed, of course.
I
Yeah.
was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised that he signed.
No, not that. I mean, the message, the autograph is beautiful, but the book is actually an interesting read.
It is.
Yes,
It is
I was
quite.
pleasant. I really thought it would be straight jacket, philosophical, blah blah blah. But it
You
isn't.
know, at his statecraft, you know, if people don't understand these things, and this is why the government, nah. This is just an account of, man, it's like stories of Jabba, proper.
Exactly, that's it.
Stories of Jabba.
That's what it is.
Aye. Wacha nikwambie. Aye.
Let me tell you, I was there.
Yes. Aye. Amekaa chini. Ednah Duale will be joining us at 7 a.m. to talk about this book and some of the details, interesting stories that is given in the book. So keep it here for that. Make sure that you are tuned in at 7 in the next 45 minutes or thereabouts. At 8 o'clock, we will have a Justice Thursday conversation. The role of effective public policies in driving the bottom-up economic model. We'll be joined by Professor Jack Muimali. He's the editor and CEO of the National Council for Law Reporting and regional manager for Forum. What is that? Is it CIV or is it 54? What is C? C is 100.
C is 100, yes. Century.
Yeah. So is it 104? Forum 104?
CIV, yes, is 104.
Okay. Anyway, he'll be joining us. Jackson Obare will be here. Well, the both gentlemen are joining us at 8 a.m. for that discussion. And then at 9, how Pledge 2 program bolsters a people-centered justice. Her Excellency Henrietta Gaiga is Ambassador of the European Union to Kenya, and Judaida Warohio is the Chief Executive of Kenya's Witness Protection Agency. That's the Justice Thursday conversation that we'll be having then. Yes? Yeah. Make sure that you keep it here and keep it locked for that. Shortly, let's look at what's on the headlines of the papers. But first, we take a look at the weather forecast. Good morning. Go to our social media pages, Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Say hello. Say hello to Eric and Ndu and CT, who's not in the room, but he's listening. And Ednah, who's here with us. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Oh my God, look at the curtains. Oh, and the shoes. What is it? My friend, you don't have money. Let's go.
Yes, yes, yes! I know what to do. The interest on my fixed deposit has matured to Songe Mbele na Kingdom Bank.
What is it about Kingdom Bank? Everyone is surprising me about this Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank move.
Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank. Kingdom Bank is now offering mid to long-term fixed saving with higher interest rates. Earn up to 10% interest from as little as 50,000 Kenya shillings on our fixed and call deposits. Enjoy variety of our great services including savings and junior savings accounts for your kids. Get return on your fixed investments today at Kingdom Bank. Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank. Shop now for all you want. Talk to us on 0709 881300 for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Kingdom Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Cloudy conditions and a bit of a drizzle in Nairobi at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 14. It's clear at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 23 in a cloudy Nyeri at 16. At 14, Eldoret is mostly clear. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 12. 24 and mostly cloudy in Mombasa this morning, highs of 30 through Thursday. And at 25, it's mostly cloudy in Malindi, highs of 31. 20 and mostly clear in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and we'll see lows of 14 in a mostly clear Kakamega at 17, reaching highs of 27. It's mostly cloudy at 20 in Kampala, highs of 26 and lows of 18, and at 25, Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy. Thursday we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is 10 degrees and cloudy this morning, highs of 28 and lows, highs of 21 and lows of 8. And at 28, it's mostly cloudy in Lagos, highs of 32 and lows of 27. It'll go to highs of 32 and a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 24. At 25, Thursday afternoon is cloudy in Beijing, highs of 28 and lows of 14. And at 10 degrees, it's cloudy in Paris, highs of 18 and lows of 9. We'll see lows of 10 and a mostly cloudy London, going to highs of 17. Wednesday night is clear at 15 in New York. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 12.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Quite a number of people online this morning. Our folks on YouTube, good morning to you. We see you there coming in hot. But before that, okay, right. Listening in from York in Pennsylvania. That's Peter Katam says good morning. Okay, good morning, the incredible hot seats. King David says good morning. Linda Gola is saying otherwise. Sour.
Otherwise.
Wenda, good morning, beautiful people. And to you too. Segecha says good morning. Good morning, good people. Blessed day ahead. Elizabeth Kiseo. Good morning. Kakumi and Erickson say good morning. South Dakota. Okay, says, sorry, South Coast. Jamal.
South Dakota.
And he has changed. It's now South Coast. All right. Good morning to you and Karibu Sana. Shafi Halej says good morning, tuned in from Roiro. And how is CT doing? He's on the mend and he'll be with us sooner, not later. Eric, the week has just ended. Then like that. Yeah, imagine. Peter Munyo is tuning from Tabuk in Saudi Arabia. Salamu za asubuhi kutoka Sacramento, California. For the record, I'm looking forward to the conversation with CS Aiden Dwale at Spon Zengu. CPA Nelson Kimutai says good morning. Dr. Michelle Amondi says greetings from the East Coast. All right. Dan Mangalis says good morning. And Esther Tati is tuned in this morning. Sheldon Shapaya says the government will kill me one day. Why? Faristo Muganda says good morning, tuned in from Mumias. And Don Sabwa, now that the governors can commission zebra crossings, then let's launch the monster Shakahola Kind Bill 2023. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't understand. Abdullahi Ali says good morning. Mombasa is where Robert is. Morris Ocheng says good morning. Good morning, tuning from Pangani. That's Leonard. Morris Werengai says he's tuning from Cabras. Good morning, tuning from Kibra. Jane Duta is tuning from Mombasa. Johnson Mayo says good morning, everybody. Tuned in. Many people online. Boniface Agostino. Racha Jose. Stephen Oendo. Alan Senior tuned in from Eldoret. Livingston Akala is tuned in this morning. Sophia Keruba Odero Jr. Joseph is tuned in. Beatrice Ngenya and Eddie Odor. You said that while you were praying in Jerusalem, Ruto was doing the same in Jerusalem.
Well, where? At the Wailing Wall of Koru.
He actually has a picture of the Wailing Wall of Koru. Good morning, everybody. Karibuni sana.
Good morning. Welcome. Today's Somalia proverb. Somali proverb from Somalia.
Well done.
Okay, but it's in English. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or far away.
And then says it's not my fault that they're dead or that they're not around, but they were there.
Nani knew, by the way. Yeah. Remember Nani? He used to live here. He saw it.
He was there.
He saw it. He saw it happen.
It's not my fault that he's dead. But he was there.
Go ask him. I wish just John was here. He would have told you. Yeah. He would have told you. Aki. Aki, walai.
Just that he's not here.
Yeah, just that he's not here. Higher. Let's look at the headlines.
Let's do it. On the front page of the Standard, how Kalonzo goof cost him the presidency. Again, looking into the intrigues of For the Record. The book reveals that Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto offered Kalonzo the presidency because a coalition of the three could have easily beaten Raila Odinga in 2013. But Musyoka's statements on the ICC irked the duo, who quickly changed their mind. Interestingly, this story in the book For the Record really just goes through For the Record. It's interesting to read. We'll go into the intrigues of that when we have that conversation at 7.
Yeah.
Why the bill on more taxes is likely to pass easily, and why the government side has the majority and has equally cannibalized the opposition that was expected to push for amendments or influence final vote. So doesn't look too interesting.
Wow.
The banks reject Treasury's big tax plans. Banks have weighed into this conversation as well. So let's look into that. Toyota and Mercedes merge units. I'm very interested in that story.
Who are those?
Then what happens? Toyota and Mercedes. Then what do you have? Okay, look at the details. All right, what was a buzz and the chatter was to the brim yesterday as bishops fault Ruto on taxes and state jobs. The Anglican Church yesterday joined the workers' union and politicians in rejecting proposals that seek to increase the tax burden on Kenyans, accusing President William Ruto of being insensitive to people suffering and the high cost of living. The bishops also questioned the criteria followed in making new public appointments. And we heard the words tribalism and partisan through that statement. Quite some.
Why?
Hard-hitting church came out yesterday. So look at details of that. Also looking at the headlines, a new job, a party and a body, a family's agony. Really sad story there. Religion, tough rules for churches on the way, according to Attorney General Justin Muturi. The Ruto-Raila team set to conclude talks in 60 days. Yeah, going to conclude talks in 60 days and then tell us, are we going to go to... Where are we going to go, essentially?
Where?
Wow. I didn't think it was going to take that long. So on the back page of The Nation, lawmakers want JSS set up in every primary school. Okay. Kind of ad hoc. It's kind of there already, isn't it?
Kuna vile.
Yeah. Looks kind of messy, but that's what's there.
On both, eh?
Yeah.
Pick one.
One story. Let me tell you. The church came out hard-hitting yesterday. You know how we always say, well, you have a position that you must take up in society. Ruto's plans will hurt Kenyans, ACK bishops say. The Anglican Church yesterday rejected President William Ruto's proposed taxation measures, saying it was a sign that the government was increasingly proving insensitive in the plight of the majority of Kenyans, whom they said were sinking deeper into economic hardship and distress on the daily.
Yeah.
In a hard-hitting statement, the members of the House of Bishops of the Anglican Church of Kenya also faulted President Ruto's government for what they said was the creeping in of tribalism and regional appointments in the public service. He says, according to the statement read by Archbishop Jackson Olesapit, there is glaring tribalism and cronyism, particularly with regard to public appointments. There is apparent lack of accountability and transparency in our institutions. This is not acceptable. Let all institutions and government agencies be impartial and efficient and not simply beholden to political influence. The bishops also asked the bipartisan talks between teams representing President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga to be expanded to include faith-based organizations. They added that they were willing to help thrash out issues that will not be agreed on by the committee co-chaired by George Murugara, and Dr. Otiende Amolo. Gosh, all the E's and the A's and the O's are confusing me this morning. Otiende Amolo. So according to them, this committee does not take into consideration all the different, factors for representation that it needs to. And they're saying that they're coming from a position of assistance. There will be issues that you guys will not be able to thrash out. Who better to come in than the church, according to them, to come in and help with some of these things. But the thing that came out most glaringly from this, there were two. Number one, Kenyans are already suffering. What you're showing by this new bill that you're suggesting is your insensitivity to the suffering of Kenyans. And we cannot have you do that. On the other hand, it is clear from their observation that the appointments that have been made in government as well as agencies is tribal. You're allowing tribalism to come into this, and it does not look good. There should be widespread representation of all the country, all the people in these appointments. But unfortunately, what we have seen is that you're leaning heavily in one direction. I'm an Amnagani, my friend. And they said, look, this is what we are seeing. It doesn't look good. Tinker with it a little bit and fix it. But now, especially this thing of now wanting to push Kenyans, they're already at the wall. They go inside the wall, come out of the other side, but they've weighed in and said, look, the way things are going, no.
There's a way. You would not be able to do it without. The issue of tribe and appointments in government, it's a serious one. There's appointments and then there's those that are recruited. Okay? Now, who determines who gets recruited in the public service?
The commission.
Okay. Does the commission look at tribe?
One would hope not.
No, one would hope that it does. In some instances, in terms of, like now...
To guarantee representation?
To guarantee regional balance and all.
Okay. But in terms of qualification, we're hoping that we're not saying, okay, well, because you're from here, we're going to give you this job.
Yes.
But in terms of your qualification and say that, look, we can also consider you because we don't have enough representation from the area of where you come in public service, so let us give you the opportunity. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. It's a tight one.
It's very tricky balance.
There's a whole story here on page 6 of the Standard that talks about state jobs skewed in favor of majority tribes since independence. It looks at Kenyatta's cabinet. It looks at Moi's, not cabinet, just government, Moi's government, cabinet appointments. Now Ruto's cabinet appointments as well, top appointments, Kibaki's top appointments, Uhuru's top appointments. And you'll see, yes, the big tribes have more people in government if you compare them to the small tribes.
So then you're going to ask yourself, Eric, is that because the big tribes, by nature of their
numbers
and their noise, quote unquote, that is why they're recognized and given these? Or is it that they're recognized and given this because they are big and that you need those numbers on your side? If you award them, the likelihood of them supporting you for next run is, is high.
Yeah.
So the bigness of the tribe goes two ways. That, they're recognized because they're out there. So, they've put themselves out there. So you're going to give them these. Or we're going to give them because they are big and we can't ignore them. It's a very tricky balance to strike. But when it appears as though you're all out appointing from one, it doesn't look too good. But the truth of the matter is, this presidency, this administration is not the first one to have done it. That's the truth.
Yeah. I think I rather like to concentrate a lot more on the public service than on the political appointments. Because political appointments, a president will appoint a cabinet of people whom he feels will help him serve.
The people in his corner, for sure.
Yeah. If they all come from one corner, that's your problem. That's a political guff that you're taking. Is it going to cost you? Is it not going to cost you? And that's why I say, President should just be allowed to pick ministers however he wants. Just pick them. These are your people. This is what you've decided you want to do. Sour.
Yeah. Because would
It's
you have
your
a problem?
choice.
Because if you're saying tribe, I understand what we're talking about, the people, the stuff of who you are. But if it's folks in your corner, if you had a female president, for example, and the majority of people that then she went on to appoint were women, because those are the people in her corner that she understood, would we have the same
Assuming that that's how she'd do it.
Yeah, assuming, yeah. Would you have an issue?
Would be celebrating how, now this time we've actually hit our 70%, this and the other. It's dicey. But if we focused a lot more on our public service and looked at merit, and so let's look back at public service, all the way, my argument is all the way to the level of principal secretary, all those should be merit. People should rise to principal secretary.
So, regardless of your name,
rise to the level of principal secretary on merit. And that way, then, with all the other constitutional requirements of, looking at regional balance and regional integration, people will rise. People will rise. But if we talk about political appointments, if we say political appointments to minister, to principal secretary, to chief administrative secretary, and to director positions, and to ambassador positions, then that's how the tribe comes in.
Yeah.
The tribe will always keep playing. Because the president will look at the people who he's got to reward. But let's just say the ministers you can pick. Everybody else, merit. It goes with merit. Yeah, earn it. If you are to be an ambassador of Kenya somewhere, to a certain level, you are a career diplomat. That you rise to a certain level. And even the president can be restricted and told, out of all the Kenya's missions abroad, 80% must be career diplomats. You can choose 20 in places that you think, okay, this one I want a political person in that place who does one or two things as the ambassador, and then the deputy head of mission is a career diplomat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take this break. 26 minutes to 7. Let's look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I know the sun is out in Nairobi at least. As you tembea, be careful. Manchester United are trying to sign anyone. Watch out where your children are. Please hide yourselves.
Sugar and spice.
I reached a point where suicide things were just going south completely. Something stopped me. It's gone.
All right, still starting to build up in some parts. We're looking at low fog in others as you're going out west beyond Nairobi. It's busy, bumper to bumper on the Thika Superhighway getting into town. Not quite started on Limuru Road, but we will see that later. Let's look out of Westlands where it's starting to build up on Waiyaki. We're inbound now. James Gishuru still looks pretty good. If you're going to come off from Mzima Springs or out from other areas in Lavington, you'll be all right getting to James Gishuru and then spilling over towards Waiyaki, at least for now. So now is the time to be out and about if you don't want to get stuck in traffic that will definitely be there after 7. Also looking at a little bit of traffic on Manyanja Road connecting to Outer Ring as well as on Kangundo Road today. North Airport Road is already starting to look very busy. It's a beehive of activity right now as you go towards the Eastern Bypass. It'll continue to build. Where are you this morning? Let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
More taxes is likely to pass easily.
Yeah.
It's on page 12 of the Standard today. It's a story by Joseph Thiongo who says the finance bill that's proposing to expand taxation is likely to be approved by Parliament given that Kenya Kwanza enjoys a majority of numbers in the House. What are those numbers? A look at the composition of Parliament indicates President Ruto has the upper hand where his Kenya Kwanza alliance enjoys support of 179 of the 349 members against Azimio's 157. Mm-hmm. A recent expression of intent by approximately 20 MPs from Jubilee to work with Kenya Kwanza could push this number to 200 who are in Kenya Kwanza. Now, hiyo ni mambo mingi. The thing is, there's all this, in fact, we were saying earlier, the finance bill this time has received a lot of awareness. In terms of many people are aware what the government is proposing to do to raise revenue, and a lot of it is on the new taxes being introduced or new taxes being increased and where they're going up. Okay, there's a lot of conversation. Okay, wanapandisha tax. Even members of parliament can hear when Anglican bishops come out and they speak directly and they say, no, this thing is draconian. When you see the opposition coming out to specifically, and this time Azimio got it. In fact, I was wondering, these Azimio people, are they ever going to wake up? And then when I saw Raila addressing the press conference, I was like, okay, finally, you know? And they got it and they came out and said, this particular bill, no, it is proposing too much. And then other members of parliament coming out to say, no, this is proposing too much. We had a member of parliament yesterday who's a Kenya Kwanza MP. And he said, relax, people. When it comes, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. Do you have confidence that members of parliament will not vote according to the side they're on, but according to what they actually believe, have read, understood, and felt is right or wrong?
Isn't that just it? And unfortunately, it's really scary to even express it, but that's just the case. That really do feel that Parliament is going to, and it's so sad, but the Parliament is going to vote with the allegiance in hand. That's it. Allegiance to a party leader in the terms of the majority. And even those who shut it down, and this is the thing, Eric, that even those who shut it down, not necessarily shutting it down because they understand it, but will shut it down because you have to take an opposition stance.
They'll be playing to the gallery.
Exactly. Anything that these people say, even if they say the sky is blue and it is blue, they'll shut it down because... And if you really did look at the intricacies of this thing, you would have people in the majority shutting it down because they realize just how hard it is going to play on the lives of Kenyans.
Here's the reality. The bill is not going to be voted against.
It won't.
It'll be amended. And these are the issues, all right? So it's coming before Parliament. The thing that Parliament ought to be doing now is actually amending. Parliament is a budget making. So it ought to be amending and saying this particular tax or tax measure that has been introduced, we vote against it, we amend this, say this one says 35% for blah, 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 reduce it to 30. This one says you shall introduce the housing tax at 3%, reduce it to 1.5, or say no, do not introduce it at this time.
Or keep this.
It's going to be amendments. Some things are going to be kept, some things may be removed. Now, those that are thinking ahead are already thinking of amendments. And I can tell you, I am sure that the Kenya Kwanza administration, listening to what is happening, will introduce some sweet amendments here and there. This one, we are going to amend this so that we reduce this, and, we've heard the plight of Kenyans, this and the other. And there are others that will pass. What all members of parliament ought to be doing now is looking at this thing with a fine-tooth comb, going through every proposal one by one, seeking external support, seeking technical assistance to understand what works, what wouldn't work, what would be a better thing to do. And then you go to Parliament and push for those amendments. But you will see amendments will be brought by the leader of the majority or the chair of the Finance Committee. He's been sitting in Mombasa with his team. They're looking at this thing. They will receive a memoranda from the 21st. They'll retreat. They'll hear what Professor Njuguna Ndongo will tell them, okay, you can introduce these amendments then so that you can placate people. Kuria Kimani will introduce amendments to this bill in the House. And you will hear all Kenya Kwanza MPs saying, you see, we have introduced amendments. So this one is now better. You see, we have reduced that thing. We have removed that 500,000 pay at 35% because it affects them. You'll see that one being reduced. We have removed that one to only 30% to equalize everybody. You cannot say that more people are paying more tax than others, and then there'll be things that they leave and there may things that they may introduce. And Kenya Kwanza MPs are going to vote yes
they will.
On it. Azimio MPs are going to vote no.
Not because they don't understand it, but because Kenya Kwanza voted yes.
Yes.
That's it.
And instead of having an honest and constructive debate in the House on what works, what doesn't work, we'll have an issue here.
And that's my problem, that you can see these amendments which ought to be made. And the truth of the matter is that there's not all of them are quote unquote pressure points for Kenyans. That there are some that actually can be upheld. There are.
Yep.
But the problem is that nobody's going to do that thing that you prescribe. Go through it with a fine-tooth comb and see, okay, guys, this sounds crazy on the offset. Is there something we can do to it to make it more comfortable?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
And that is my problem.
That's a big problem that we're going to have with this parliament. They are not going to actually deal with the finance bill and say, okay, in fact, what you're proposing to do is, with all these things, you want to raise 2.8 trillion shillings. If we remove this, it impacts your target of 2.8 trillion shillings to this much. So let's also go back into the budget statement and say you then cannot spend this much, or your deficit goes up by this much. Those are the conversations that they should be having. But you have already told Parliament, you've already told the executive you can spend 3.6 trillion shillings in the next financial year. You've already told the executive, yes, we are okay with you saying that you're going to raise 2.8 trillion shillings. They're just coming to show you how they'll raise the 2.8 trillion shillings. If you say no to anything, that then they say, okay, so you've reduced our target from 2.8 trillion to 2.5 trillion. You have increased the deficit by 300 billion shillings. And this is the impact of it. These conversations will not happen. You will see. We have people who let us down.
It's making somebody sweat.
You tell us a story.
Okay, so you have it, actually. The one that I wanted to just go ahead and look at it. The one in the Nation of the young boy.
This story on page 3. Yeah?
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Shakahola, and then you can come back to that.
Okay.
More bodies have been retrieved from the Shakahola farm. The DCI homicide team exhumed 12 bodies from graves within the 800-acre farm, bringing the total to now 145. Every day there's another body, I cringe. Every day there's another exhumation that has been done, I cringe. Not so much at what has been found, but the reality that many more could be underground. And then to start to ask the questions again, which we ought to. And this cannot be something that can be forgotten. It cannot be something that folks will be like, oh yeah, well, that's going on. And then when they finish, they'll shut down the case. No. That 145 bodies of probably more Kenyans than anybody else have been found underground in Shakahola, and something terrible had been happening that caused this to occur. So the team led by the DCI said the bodies were retrieved from graves within the farm, obviously, at the Malindi mortuary. Hundreds of relatives of the people whose loved ones are missing continued to come forward, saying, we have reason to believe that our people, having disappeared under these Shakahola circumstances.
Yeah.
According to Priska Zawadi, who'd been camping at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital mortuary for the past 2 weeks, said, I'm hoping to get the bodies of my sister and my 3 nephews so we can give them a dignified burial. She's sure that her sister and these 3 boys,
nephews. What?
They cannot be found. She's sure they're dead.
What?
She's waiting for them to be found. She said her sister relocated to Shakahola with her family in pursuit of her fate. Zawadi is one of the hundreds of family members who are clinging to hope that their loved ones may be found alive. Now get this, Eric. That there are people who are waiting. They're not going anywhere else in the country because they know that their people came there to Shakahola.
Yeah.
They cannot be found. They are not alive somewhere in the bush in the 800-acre farm. They're dead, and they're waiting for this team to find the bodies. How many more are waiting? So how many more dead bodies are waiting for exhumation?
Red Cross says how many?
386 is the number on their list. This is not the number of people that they have
missing.
That have been reported missing. This is the number of people who are waiting outside Malindi, just standing around. This is the 386 that Red Cross has logged.
Yeah.
And confirmed.
So and so missing, as reported by a close family member.
Yes. And they've come and they said, my person
was in this church, or my person left and said they're going.
I'm coming to Shakahola. This is it. That's damn scary.
It's crazy. It is crazy that all those things were happening. I know people are saying, so I have taken my 3 children, Kwaherini,
or wherever.
Yes. And what did people understand? Is it that when people are saying Kwaherini tumeenda, were you understanding that they meant? What? did you understand them to be saying we are going to kill ourselves, or did you think maybe they're saying we have actually devoted ourselves to church? Because I'm seeing maybe it's a latter.
Eric.
That the understanding is not that, I am going to be dead.
No.
And people, you don't take them seriously. You think, okay, yeah, so what they've decided is they're huyu ameingia kwa kanisa.
Okay, sure. But you think about this, okay? You live in, pick a place. Nakuru.
Okay.
You've been there. Your children go to school in Nakuru.
Yep.
You have a life in Nakuru.
Yep.
You've grown up, you work there, your children are in school, your community knows you.
Yep.
One day, you go to the coast, then you come back. It's been frequent.
Yep.
Then you come back and you tell your tribe, your people.
Yep.
Many things are happening. You're removing these children from school.
Yep.
You're leaving your house.
Yep.
You're doing all these things, you are going.
Yep.
The people you're telling, obviously, may not register that you're going to die or whatever, but you're going to the service of the church.
Yeah.
They don't ask, which kind of church is this that you must uproot your entire life and move?
People ask.
But then the answer you're given, you just say, okay.
Yeah.
That the one that you have to uproot your children.
Because people relocate anyway, even without church, people relocate. Someone can just say, they
I'm
used
going
to live
find
here.
life in Diani.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand that.
I am
but
moving.
They are telling you that they're going for the sake of the church.
Yes. Yes. Because the assumption that you have is they're moving closer. So you are not doing all those things of understanding that there's a preacher who says, come and kill yourself.
Because they don't give that information.
Yeah, and this kind of vast land is basically just barren. We are not coming to farm. You know, you're assuming that the person is actually moving closer to where their church is. And they're going to find a life there. They'll start life. The children will go to school in a nearby school. This person will start working. They'll be working. They'll be, you know, they have basically figured out what they're going to be doing, but they just want to be closer to the church.
Sure, I understand that, Eric. Now imagine how much more traumatizing it is now
when you realize that what
when
this
you
person
realize
was saying, they were actually
totally
saying,
different.
I am going to kill myself and my children.
Yes.
It's
madness.
crazy.
Now, 300, I don't know now where Red Cross is with that number.
Yeah.
Since the last time they spoke to us.
Yep.
Nothing like this has ever happened in Kenya before. Like this?
Not to this scale. Not at this scale.
No. And the scary thing is that, you know how you're digging. Have you seen that picture of, you know, somebody who's digging and they're almost at the end? But then there's the other guy who's digging and there's a huge rock behind and you don't even... I feel that that's what's happening here. That they've just begun to scratch the surface of what actually lies beneath at Shakahola.
Yep.
And it scares me to my bone.
Yep. It's people's lives. Anyway. Members of Parliament are talking about JSS, okay? But not at because it's a formal... There's only one member of Parliament who has brought a motion before Parliament and said, people would like us to discuss this. Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku, he brought a motion to Parliament saying JSS and the number of schools that have been identified as JSS schools and all these things is affecting very many children. We only have 23,820 schools approved to host JSS. 18,695 of them are public, 5,125 are private schools. Okay? Now, the Member of Parliament is coming to say there are many learners who were in grade 6 and whose primary schools were not designated to host JSS, and they're finding it difficult to go to other schools because the distance. All right? You are in this school, now you've been told this school cannot do JSS, so you have now to transfer to the other school, which is about, 10 kilometers away?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
In the densely populated areas, in the sparsely populated areas, shauri yako. Now, the MP has brought that matter to Parliament and they were discussing it yesterday. And he was saying communities have over the years continuously established learning institutions in their localities to address the lack of physical facilities. It's wrong to negate the gains that communities have made by locating JSS in a few schools. Bureti MP Kibet Komingo, he said, without clear guidelines and policies on the distance from one school to another, the implementation of this program will affect our children. He was supported by Kamukunji MP Yusuf Hassan, who said JSS has inadequate facilities and an acute shortage of teachers. There is need to come up with a clear policy, including infrastructure, to address the challenges of junior secondary schools for smooth implementation. It will be important to come up with a clear policy and funding plan so that the level of education in the country doesn't deteriorate. Blah, 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 and this and the other.
Yeah.
Members of Parliament are just dealing with it. You know, it's a policy issue.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to come up with a,
No, sorry. Until you're ready to fix this thing.
It has not become a big issue for Parliament to say stop everything else.
Exactly. It's not.
Stop it.
You never pinch them, I'm telling you.
Tomorrow schools are reopening. Let all schools host JSS. Or this JSS in primary is not working. Move these kids to secondary. Move it.
Or stop the whole thing completely and go back to where we were until we figure out what we're doing. No. What are you talking about? Come on. It's not so difficult to realize what's going on here. You say, it's supposed to be secondary school, but we just don't have enough. So for now, let grade 7 be domiciled in primary school. But then you realize later, actually, the infrastructure is inadequate to actually host them. So
transfer kids from one school
to another one. Without regarding the reasons why people have put their children in certain schools.
Yeah.
The way it was originally designed is that your children did not have to go to school far away from where you are. There's a reason.
And the impact on congestion.
Are you kidding? Already schools are congested.
And then now
you say, actually, you know what? Add some more. What are you talking about? Okay, now, let's say this goes through. Okay, let's just say this goes through. No, let's just say it doesn't go through. And that you continue doing it as you were. Now you want to move them to other schools, Abi. The term has already begun, isn't it? People have to do certain things in order to go to school. What are we talking about? They buy uniform, they buy books, they're affiliated with a particular school, they do 1, 2, 3. Parents actually plan for their children based on the schools that they go to. They know that, all right, I don't have to hire help, because by the time my child is coming back from this particular school, I'll be home.
Yeah.
Or at least they can fend for themselves for a couple of hours because it's not too far. Now you want to come and topple all of that.
That has been disrupted and all. It's crazy. That's what our parliament is just one of those. Now, there's a very sad story on page 3 of The Nation today. Okay? It's about a gentleman called Emmanuel Omondi. Emmanuel Omondi was a student at the Cooperative University. He graduated last year, 2022. In March this year, he got an acceptance letter from a telecommunications company to start employment. Okay? Got a job. So they decided to go and celebrate with his friends about this new job. They went to a club called Hornbill in Ongata Rongai. Celebrating there. You guy, man, you got a job. Okay. Friends say trouble started between Emmanuel and other patrons after he accidentally fell and spilled drinks on the next table. A scuffle ensued, and the bouncers from this club escorted him out of the club. That was the last time that his friends say they saw him. Let's bring in the parents.
Okay.
The father is called Julius Odhiambo. Julius says, I called Emmanuel and we spoke briefly. Later, my daughter called me and asked if I had spoken to him, and I said yes, and even gave her the time, but she said it couldn't be because she had received a message that Emmanuel was missing. She added it was probably Emmanuel's friend who had his phone and ID card. So the parent, they rushed from their home in Eldoret. They came to Nairobi to search for him. They kept hitting dead ends. I tried to contact his friends, including the one Emmanuel was staying with in Nairobi, but we couldn't get enough information. I also wondered why they had put their telephone numbers on the missing poster instead of mine. Besides, I know my son. He doesn't drink, so the behavior that they describe could not be him. He was in a club, drinking, fell, knocked off drinks, started a scuffle. Not possible. That cannot be. 9 days after Emmanuel went missing, disturbing news reached his family and friends. A body had been discovered in the septic tank of Hornbill Club in Ongata Rongai. The body was recovered and taken to City Mortuary. Relatives were called to identify him. This is what happened. After looking at the body, I realized that it was not my son's. His toes looked different. And the body had a tattoo. My son had no tattoos. The clothes were also not what I knew my son to be wearing. That's a father. However, Emmanuel's girlfriend, who spoke on condition of anonymity, says she was with Emmanuel on that day that he disappeared, and that his clothes matched those found on the body. But the family insists, no, this is not Emmanuel. Let's continue looking for Emmanuel. Now the matter has gone to court. The court has said, let's conduct DNA and establish this. Okay. So DNA samples have been taken from the father, the mother, and the siblings. Meanwhile, police have taken some employees of Hornbill Club to the court, and the employees were released. The court said, let's release them, let's conduct a DNA, let's establish
first
whose body this is.
After all, it was in the septic tank, man.
It was in your septic tank.
Yeah.
And then we shall now deal with that case of how that body ended up in the septic tank that is usually locked.
Obviously, somebody opened it and put a body in it.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel, a boy who had just found a job after graduating last year from Cooperative University, is missing. Just like that. He died on the night that he was celebrating getting his first job. It is a sad story. Very sad story. There's also another story still in the nation. We don't have much time, but I can tell you about it. About a girl called Jacinta Achieng. Jacinta Achieng was a 19-year-old girl in Kisumu. After the news, I'll start with that. I'll tell you about it. Sawa.
Okay.
8:07 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Azimio and Kenya Kwanza Bipartisan Talks Committee say the framework agreement has been finalized and settled. Speaking at the Bomas of Kenya, committee co-chair Otiende Amolo said they've agreed to hold the discussions within 60 days.
We have discussed the question of time. You will remember that we in Azimio had given a time frame of 30 days. Our colleagues in Kenya Kwanza had given a time frame of 90 days. We have agreed to constrain that time to 60 days. But within those 60 days, we have agreed that the more urgent issues that need to be dealt with will have been dealt with within 30 days, and that the rest of the time we will take to deal with the rest of the issues.
Senate Deputy Minority Leader Ednah Kwambua stated 5 issues raised by Azimio.
This is the list of issues for discussion as presented by Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Bipartisan Dialogue Team. 1. Cost of living. 2. Audit of the 2022 presidential elections results. 3. Restructuring and reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) and related matters. 4. Measures to prevent interference with political parties. And 5. Outstanding constitutional matters, including governance issues, effective checks and balances, and the question of boundaries delimitation.
Kenya Kwanza was represented by Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, who mentioned 7 issues.
1. Reconstitution of the IEBC Commissioner Selection Panel. 2. The 2/3 gender rule. The entrenchment of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, and the Senate Oversight Funds in the Constitution. 3. The creation of the office of the leader of the official opposition. 4. Resolving insecurity problems, including banditry and urban gangs, and proposing measures to deal with the impunity on the part of those who should bear responsibility.
The controversial pastor Paul Mackenzie and 17 other suspects have been detained for 30 more days. Sean's principal magistrate Yusuf Shikanda for the rule that the respondents be held in various police stations and treated in a humane manner.
The respondents shall have the right to communicate whether by telephone or other means with any person of their choice, and the persons in charge of the facilities at which the respondents are held shall facilitate the communication. G. The respondents shall be accorded medical examination, treatment, and health care whenever such need arises. H. In the event that the state shall seek an extension of the period granted herein, the state shall be required to submit a report indicating the general status of the investigations done so far and what is left to be done.
These as the total number of bodies exhumed in the Shakahola forest has hit 145 after 11 bodies were exhumed, and another body was found in the forest in the second phase of exhumation. According to Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha, the body found in the bush had not been buried. Onyancha indicated that 2 people have been rescued, bringing the number of rescued individuals to 70.
Timu ambayo inafukua mili imeweza kuwa mili 11 na pia tumeweza kupata mwili moja kutoka kichakani. Tuko na mili 12. Wale ambao wameweza kukamatwa kufikia sasa ni watu 25. Tuna ile timu ambayo inatafuta wale wenzetu ambao wako pale msituni, imeweza kuwanusuru ndugu wetu 2 ambao walikuwa pale msituni.
So far 70 people believed to be followers of Preacher Paul Mackenzie have been rescued from the ongoing operation, while 579 people have been reported missing by their families. In addition, 14 people have been reunited with their families.
Na pia wale ambao wamejiandikisha kwamba wanatafuta ndugu zao ama mama zao ama familia zao wamefika 579. Kuna watu 14 ambao wameweza kukutanishwa na familia zao. Wale ambao wametoa chembe zao za DNA bado ni 93.
And preachers in Bungoma County have raised their concerns over the government's decision not to include religious leaders in the panel created by President William Ruto to review regulations of religious institutions. They claimed that the panel did not include leaders from all parts of the country, stressing the need for religious leaders to be given the opportunity to self-regulate.
Sisi hatuiungi mkono kwa sababu imekuwa upande mwingine anachukua upande mwingine na upande mwingine representative au chakuwa representative vizuri. Tukaangalia tukaona haijaleta sura ya Kenya, haijaleta sura ya madhehebu yote, haijaleta sura ya watu wote. Kwa hivyo tukasema ya kwamba vitengo hivyo tunaweza kuviangalia kama sisi wenyewe wahubiri, alafu tutoe mtu mmoja kutoka kila sehemu tumpeane, lakini sio watu fulani ambao hawaelewi hata vile kanisa linavyofanywa wanaenda kukaa ili kuzungumzia mambo ya kanisa.
This is Newswire. Dennis Osata, good morning.
Good morning. At a few minutes after 7 o'clock, we're looking at traffic building up. I guess it's about that time when everybody is out and about and filling up these streets. It's busy on the Thika Superhighway. We're coming into the city with traffic bumper to bumper. Service lanes is what you can use right about now. Let's look at what's going on the North Airport Road. Heading out from Cabanas towards the Eastern Bypass. Very, very busy traffic right about now. It is bumper to bumper. Another place where it's bumper to bumper is starting to be on Langata Road as well as Gong Road this morning. So let's keep an eye out for that. Kiambu Road is also extremely busy right about now, getting towards Muthaiga Square. So it's going to be a busy Thursday morning. We're here for it to see exactly what's going on. Are you stuck somewhere? Let us know. Providing alternatives of what you can use. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
Good morning,
the only way to start your day.
Biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room. It's Eric Latif and Ndu Oko, our colleague CT, is not in today. He's still feeling a little bit under the weather. It is not for jokes. It is a big one. So it's really, really affecting all of us. I&M Bank reminds you to Nakujali, and they say they have the largest unsecured personal loan in the country. Up to 10 million shillings that you can get from I&M Bank unsecured loans, giving you a tenure of 96 months, that's 8 years, from as low as 50,000 shillings to as high as 10 million, Bob. I mean, who else is offering that in the country? I can tell you for sure, nobody. Okay? If you are thinking of any kind of development, personal project like this, and you're looking for some money and you're wondering, what do I do? Just walk into I&M Bank. All they say is come with your pay slip, an introduction from your employer, and hii mambo ingine yote tutakusaidia, tunakujali, tuachie. All you need to do is walk into I&M Bank, any I&M Bank branch countrywide, and talk to them, have a conversation with them. Okay? We have a guest in the studio this morning. It's For the Record. The book is out. He talked about it last time he was here and he said, my book will be coming out next month. And we thought, okay. And we hear this all the time. Here is the book, Eden Duale's For the Record, the inside story of power, politics, lawmaking, and leadership in Kenya. Good morning, Waziri.
Morning, good people.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Asante sana for joining us. And for coming to share with us about this. I mean, Yours has been the headline in the last 2 days on the Standard.
Yes.
Today's is this one, how Kalonzo goof cost him the presidency. Yeah. So let's talk about
the one
that
of yesterday made me, I did some sales.
Yeah. Yesterday's.
So today again I'll do it. It was very interesting. At least the forward of the president was captured yesterday.
Yes. The president gave you the foreword for this particular book.
Yes.
He's written actually 3 pages. 5 pages of the foreword by His Excellency the President. And it talks about your journey together in politics up to this particular point that you've gotten. Let's talk about that. First, CT is not in, but this week, CT, due to public pressure, he said, this week's proverbs are from Somalia. And so
from Somali language.
Yes.
Somalia, is a country.
Yes.
Yeah,
from Somalia, the country.
Yes.
He said it's because we do African proverbs.
Oh, okay.
Proverbs from across Africa. So today's proverb, I'm going to say it in English, and then you can say it in Somali, because I'm sure you understand the language.
Yes.
A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kisomali.
I think it's a very good proverb. It says, Ben low, ninte, yanin der, ayu markati kadikta. Ben low, ninte, yanin der, ayu markati kadikta. Meaning that, this character called liar.
Yeah.
He has disturbed people. Mm-hmm. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses? Give us who are the eyewitnesses. He will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify. So he tells you, he gives you one of a person who's dead. Mm-hmm. So how do you verify? An eyewitness. And then he tells you, and then somebody very far, maybe in the Bahamas, And those days, I'm sure when this proverb came into place, the telephones were not there, the planes were not there. So anazungusha watu anaambia wewe sema nani aliona hii. Atasema fulani.
Tulikuwa na fulani.
Na hiyo fulani ukiangalia ni mtu aliaga zamani sana.
Yuko.
Ukimwambia huyu mtu ameaga nakwambia okay, fulani mwingine ambaye yako mbali sana. So Benlo ninte ninter. Ninte means a guy who's dead, and there means somebody who's very far
away.
He makes those to be his eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Interesting one. Your book, you have basically given us a book that is 32 chapters long. And you've broken it down into, various chapters, and where you tell it in different ways. And Ndu, your first reaction after reading this book, when you first told me, okay, I've read the book.
Yeah.
What was it that you said?
The first thing I said to Eric, I said, this reminds me of the person who gives you the details of I went to and I saw and I went to and I saw and
I participated
and I was there, and for me the prose was a story, like storytelling, and I was like, wow, okay, it's an account, it's a recount of events, but then when you look beyond the words, there's a deeper story there. It didn't really matter what chapter you were in. And I mean, as we look at these 32 chapters, every one of them, from when you were a young boy to where you are now, was a recount of things. You were right there. And then again, I was like, this is not just a fly on the wall situation. And when we, in the Kenyan context, think about politicians, we think about those who are just hopping from one place to another, trying to go for their expediency. But this, for me, then, was like, these are experiences.
Yeah.
And they're decisions that are being fueled by these experiences. And it's a little bit deeper than what we see on the outside.
Yes.
Actually, a lot deeper than what we see on the outside.
It's quite deep in how, how the story is being told.
Yeah.
In the way you've told it, one and to the other. It was interesting that you chose the words that you chose for your prologue.
Because prologue was interesting. We discussed that as well.
Immediate first page of the prologue is where you talk about a meeting that was taking place in Naivasha. And you had a long day of
the
meeting.
The prologue is long, but the meeting in Naivasha, in the wee hours of the night.
In the wee hours of the night, and
attracted attention of many people.
This, I'm sure, has sold a couple of copies for you in how you tell this particular story. I don't want to read it out, but what was this meeting that was taking place in Naivasha? What was it about?
That was the first parliamentary group meeting of the then powerful ODM party after sharing power under the National Accord. That was our first. Those who became ministers, those who became assistant ministers, and the whole leadership. Led by the Prime Minister. Yeah. We went for the first parliamentary group meeting. So there are those who wanted to become ministers, they lost that chance. There are those who are now assistant ministers. There are those who are dejected. A number of us were saying, why can't we stay in the opposition benches? And why are we going? We think we won this election. Why are we going for Nusu Mkate? We can bring down this government because we have the numbers. Why are we sharing power with people who stole our elections? So there was a lot of discussion. So we had to have a PG, and it started around 6 p.m. for 2 days. So that we went. So it was one of the memorable moments. Anyang Nyong'o, Professor Anyang Nyong'o was our Secretary General. Henry Kosgei was our chairman. So it was the first time we came face to face with the top leadership of ODM after the post-election violence, after the Kofi Annan story, and after the Kibaki and Raila formed their Grand Coalition government. After those who are saying even the ministries were given, these are leftovers. Again, Kibaki has changed. So it was a very different people came with different ideas and concerns to that PG. So, but that prologue, that section you're talking about is after the meeting, after the dinner, and everybody went back to his room. That's where I started my story.
It was a very interesting start, that's true. And I think it drew a lot of people in, not just in terms of the details of, what was happening at the periphery of this meeting,
yes,
but then also what is then probably habitual for lots of people. If I can take a few steps back, first of all, I think that it is extremely important that we as Africans write. I think that we don't write enough. I think that a lot of what we see in books has been given to us by people. A lot of the books that we read or have read in the past have come to us from non-Africans. So every time that another African writes, we do a lot for our history. And I think that every time we have a further contribution towards writing, it is something that must be lauded. So I think we could take that opportunity to congratulate you for that as we add to it. But then the question is, why did you decide to write this book with these details? You could have written about anything. You could have written about anything, but you chose to talk about lawmaking and leadership in Kenya. Why did you do that?
Yes, I think that's a very fair question. This book, if you read from the first page to the last page, 371 pages, the period is between, let me say, 2002, a bit 2003, but from 2005, the orange versus banana referendum, till August, this election, of last election. So that's a huge, it's a long time in terms of the time frame. And this is a time when I spent my entire life in that period in the political class. So that's why politics and leadership comes in. And during this period, I think half of it, I was the leader of majority. So what was I doing? I was the anchor and the person in charge of lawmaking and also government agenda in the legislature, whether it's bills, sessional paper, treaties, motions, statements. So that's why I picked on that title. But you know, after, and I think there's a chapter in this book called The 22 Minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I was a leader of majority for close to 8 years. And that was abruptly ended in 22 minutes meeting of a parliamentary group meeting at KICC. So when I went home that night, and the following days and the following weeks, I realized I had a lot of free time because the office of the leader of majority is a very, very busy office. So I had a lot of free time and I had a lot of energy. And I think, of course, with friends, I decided to write a book. One thing that helped me out of today is every day, at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I spend about 20, 30 minutes to recap the main events of my life. Even today when I go back, I'll say I was here and we discussed this, and jot it down and put it somewhere. So it was easier for me to recollect, sit. I think before I came to the final copy, and I want to thank you and say that I had a very, very good editorial team. You know, I had about 10 files of this book. And from the first one to the 10th one, we're making corrections, adding, subtracting. So I had a very, very, and I don't think anybody will find an error in this book. And I want to thank that editorial team. Of course, I had the editorial team, the design team, my good lawyer who made sure that from the copyright to everything, we make sure we anchor it in law. So I decided to write this book. But before I wrote this book, I read 3 books. Very, very books, and I'll ask you people, good people to read. One was by John Bolton, the former national security advisor of Donald Trump. He wrote a book just after he left office, and it's called The Room Where It Happened. You know? Basically, how the statecrafts and bureaucrats run government in the US, and more so during Trump. Then I read another book, because you remember that period where when I left office, there was this issue of deep state systems. So there was a book written by a New York newspaper, New York Times, a famous columnist called Mike, I think, Fulgram. He wrote a book, a very interesting book, and a friend sent me from the US called The Deep State, the Fall of the Constitution, and Creation of Shadow Governments. It's a very interesting book. So I read that because I wanted to know what is this deep state. So I read that book. And finally, then I read a book by former Prime Minister of UK, David Cameron, on the same title, for the record. Then with that, and I had to tell my story. You know, as you said, I think the Kenyan political class, particularly top leadership, William Ruto, Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, Mwai Kibaki, and the second tier, they have a lot about. You know, people talk about former Prime Minister participated in the Constitution, he's a reformist, he's a Democrat. You know, he's the one who gave us all these good things we're enjoying, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. But that must be written. Yeah? For generations, for our children to see. So I think I have set the ball rolling. It's not a very popular book with some of the chapters. When you read the chapter on... he bought my book yesterday. I didn't tell him that he has a chapter in my book, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Deal or No Deal. You remember that period Musalia became our flag bearer in Jubilee. I think it was 2 weeks. Then there's a chapter on my very good now friend and the same coalition, Anwar Guru, on You Have Touched a Life Wire, on the NYS mega scandal. Of course, what is in the headline, Kenyans today can read that, and can also cannot deny. Most of 100% of what I've said here, I dare them deny. It's an actual account
of what happened.
Of what happened. Today, the headline. It's true. Kalonzo said that.
So let's go into what Kalonzo said, because this is what you say, that, you know, there was, at that time, before the election of 2013,
2013, yes.
And in the run-up to that election, there's a whole issue of, you know, the Hague, Uhuru has been indicted,
Ruto has been indicted and the journey towards this election and what ought to happen. And then there's a conversation that takes place with Kalonzo Musyoka. What was that conversation? Where was it taking place and what was it about?
You know, the period between 2007 elections, post-election violence, Kofi Annan, Grand Coalition government, it flows down to the 2010 Constitution. And the 2010 Constitution, I dare say it, was lately at the far end was influenced by the political scenario then. Everybody agreed on a parliamentary system. But because Uhuru and Ruto were at the ICC, and they were very credible potential candidates for 2013 general elections, there was a feeling that we must take over government. Okay, we must unite. We must form a coalition. And we must deny Raila Odinga the presidency. So there was this team of the late Joe Saitoti, Uhuru Kenyatta, and Kalonzo Musyoka in one corner in PNU. Then there was the ODM of Raila Odinga and the rebels, then led by William Ruto and myself and many of us who were, one time they called us, in this book you see they called us rebels, they called us remnants, and many terminology. So there was a G7, you remember, of Kalonzo Musyoka, George Saitoti, Wamala was somewhere in a corner, and Uhuru Kenyatta, preparing themselves for 2013. But you know, Kalonzo Musyoka and George Saitoti, as they were talking to Uhuru Kenyatta, they were also, Saitoti was a member of the subcommittee, cabinet subcommittee on ICC. Yeah. And both of them, in fact, even in my book, you see, we met Saitoti at one time with William Ruto, and he said, you know, you guys, in the event you are indicted by the ICC and you can't stand, William Ruto, you know, I'm a pastoralist. I'm a Maasai on one end. And on the other side of the coin, I'm called Mudengi. I can appeal to the voters in Mulima, Kenya. So can I be your candidate? So Kalonzo Musyoka, as he was doing this story today, shattered diplomacy on behalf of Kibaki to save Ruto and Uhuru, but at the back of his mind, he didn't mind these two characters going to The Hague because there was an opportunity there
for him.
So there was that confusion. So at one time, when the indictees now was properly announced, and now there were 6 Kenyans who are facing the ICC, we grappled with a number of options. One option was, can we support one candidate who, when he forms government, he can look into our issues. A government that will support the 2 candidates on their case in ICC. So Kalonzo Musyoka was an option, Saitoti was an option. Of course, Raila was not an option. He was not on the table. There was a feeling, and I think to some extent it was true, that Raila was working with his international partners, the Western governments. Choices have consequences. So the new kid that the West was pushing was Raila Odinga. So Raila was not an option. So one evening, after we formed now URP and TNA, these are now new parties that came to the space. And we realized that William Ruto alone cannot win. Uhuru Kenyatta alone cannot win. What do we do? Then we formed an alliance of URP TNA. On one side, we were struggling with IC. The other side, we were saying, how do we form? So one evening, they drives. There was an idea now. And that's why even the one of Mudavadi came in and they went to Kalonzo's home and they said, man, we want to give you the seat. But we must agree. You take the presidential, Uhuru becomes your running mate, William Ruto becomes the leader of majority, we share government, 33%. And, but we have these demands. I mean, we are facing a serious issue. As we are coming to give it to you, so as a good friend of ours, in the event this ICC story becomes complicated, we have a government that can
is friendly to us.
Yes. And you know, Kalonzo by nature, if you ask me, because I have worked with him in the 10th parliament. He was the vice president. He was the leader of government business in parliament, somebody I know very well. Kalonzo is very casual in his talk. Even when he talks on TV, you see what do I pick? What you guys call the bites, the news bites. So Kalonzo just said, you know, I am a senior counsel. okay, you guys, and both of you are not lawyers, your case is not that bad. I have studied Ocampo's papers and evidence. Okay, and you guys you confirmed you guys you'll be jailed. Yeah, and you'll be jailed for not that much, but 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
You should have said 8 years. You should have said even 11 years. He pegged on the term of a president.
2 terms.
2 terms.
So while you're away...
So he said, you guys, 10 years, I'll be the president, and when you come back, I'll hand over to you. So why? What's wrong if you're in jail for 10 years? That infuriated most of the former president. He walked away and he went outside the gazebo and started puffing his cigarettes. And he left William with this guy, with this senior counsel.
And where were you at this time and what were you thinking?
In fact, they left us at our strategy meeting.
So you were not in this room?
No. So when they came back and they were in their own car, so we asked William, what happened? And William said, you guys, something serious has happened. No, Kalonzo said, and Kalonzo later confirmed to me. I think after they left, he realized the blunder. He said, so he called a number of us. He said, you guys, what happened? We told him, you said this. He said, yeah, but how can we do damage control? And that, by the way, led to the following day that we decided we present Uhuru Kenyatta as a candidate. Of course, after that, we went into the coalition, and I think Alliance. I looked for it, the coalition agreement between TNA of Uhuru Kenyatta and URP of William Ruto. That thing, I think, after we formed government in 2013, somebody decided to shred it. Because that agreement, I think, should be given to the people of Kenya. But I know the contents, We shared power.
So who kept it? Of course, there were 2 copies.
I think there were 2 copies.
I think
the two of them
kept it. And the URP copy. They were signed by the chairperson of the 2 parties. Your chairman in URP was the former speaker.
No, I think the 2 principals, they kept it.
The 2 principals kept it.
Because even later, there was another agreement by Najib Balala and by Charity Ngilu to our coalition. They didn't bring anything. I think Balala's party was called the Republican Party. Even didn't win 1 MCA. But Balala and I think I said it in my book. Balala and Charity Ngilu are the most crafty politicians. They jump ship. They know where government is forming. So they must be in government. This is the only government they are not in since 2002. Yeah. So, but the hallmark of that agreement, TNA URP, cabinet was shared, ministerial position was shared.
It was 50-50.
Even in parliament, William Ruto took the deputy president, he took the leader of majority in the National Assembly, which I took over from, which I took as a URP member. We were to take the deputy speaker in the National Assembly, the speaker of the Senate. That's how Ethuro became. And then even you go to government, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy, and many others.
So this is how it ended.
So the story about Kalonzo is very true. Maybe today Kalonzo could have been the 4th president.
Could have been this.
Maybe the 4th president.
Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 8. We are here in the studio with the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, the Honorable Ednah Duale, who's authored the new book, For the Record, his own account of the inside story of power, politics, lawmaking, and leadership in the country. And, well, he talks about what he has seen and what he has done and what he has experienced in positions of leadership. Like you said, it's since 2005, mostly focusing on the 2005 to 2022, where he served as a member of parliament, as a leader of the majority in the National Assembly, as a ranking member of the National Assembly, and he will tell us about the things that you did and those that you know that you did wrong.
Yeah, those which are documented in the book.
Yes, 27 minutes.
The rest I won't say because maybe I might write another book.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulwa, DJ Absolute. When the gang is together.
Got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Yeah?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar. The drizzle continues in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 21, highs of 25 is what we'll see in a sunny Nakuru, and 23 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri. 25 will be the high in a sunny Eldoret, and it's mostly cloudy at 25 in Mombasa. 25 and cloudy in Malindi. It's sunny at 20 in Kisumu, sunny at 16 in Kakamega. Kampala is cloudy at 20, and Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 26. 10 and mostly clear in Johannesburg, and mostly cloudy at 28 in Lagos. 24 is what it is in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Still heavy on the North Airport Road going out towards the Eastern Bypass. Heavy traffic inbound. And we're also looking at Mombasa Road as you go out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then through onto Huru Highway into the city connecting on Haile Selassie. It's heavy on the Thika Superhighway, heavy on Kiambu Road. Limuru Road is also very busy this morning. And there it is, James Gishuru. It starts all the way from Gong Road. It connects through at the junction with Naivasha Road, Gitanga Road, and then out towards Waiaki Way. Heavy traffic coming out of Westlands this morning. It's raining as well, so folks are slowing down just a tad. We're looking at heading out of Nairobi in a westerly direction, and it's foggy this morning, so please be very careful as you're heading out in that direction. Tell us about where you might be stopped this morning. Hopefully things are moving, even if they're slow. And let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Aiden Duale is a Cabinet Secretary for Defense. He's authored a new book, For the Record, and he's here with us to talk about it. I want to read an excerpt of from this book on page 231, which is something that was happening in The Hague during the status conference, and you and other leaders were in The Hague for this. And on that evening, you decided to give an interview to Hussein Mohammed and Francis Gashuri, who are also at The Hague. And you went on TV, on Citizen TV, and said, "Tonight I want to tell Kenyans that we have found out who our enemies in the diplomatic community are and who our friends are. I want to tell Kenyans that enemy number one, who fixed the president and is now fixing the deputy president, is the British government." And he said, "When I finished the interview, my phone rang. It was Turner, the British High Commissioner in Kenya. I did not pick. He called again a few minutes. 'Why are you exposing my country? Why are you not talking about the other European countries?' he asked, fuming over the line from Nairobi. 'I have confirmed that your government is the owner of the ICC cases against Kenya,' I said." And then you continue now further on in the story to show how that played out on very many other things that you were doing, even as leader of a majority in parliament. Why did you decide to go this forthright and blunt?
But you know, that's why my book is called For the Records.
Yeah.
So it is a record I'm giving. You know, I went to The Hague or Netherlands 26 times. Solely only for the ICC. From the time the indictment took place up to the last status conference and the judges made their ruling on William Ruto. During this period, I think it was when we had the status conference on the case of William Ruto. And we were a huge group of politicians. And our head of legal team, to say more, from the political side, was Professor Kindiki, who was at that time, I think, the leader of majority in the Senate. And the status conference of the state parties usually happens every 2 years. And that time, the chair of the bureau was I don't know whether he's still there, but by then he was the Minister for Justice of the Republic of Senegal. From government, there was Rachel Mamo, there was Amina Mohammed, there was our former PS Ambassador Kamau, who was then our ambassador in New York. Majority of our ambassadors in the European enclave were in The Hague. And a group of about 30, 40 MPs. And in that book, you see at one stage when Waititu took off, you know, it's a very interesting chapter. So there was a lot of lobbying and caucusing. The Kenyan civil society led by Njonjo and Gladwell, and many of them were also in certain part of that conference, you know, lobbying and putting posters everywhere, you know, and that's how the kind of posters they were putting made Waititu and even by extension James Turi to take off, because they were saying with the, you know, posters with their hands in blood, and these are the Mungikis. So I think when Waititu saw the flyers and the posters going around, he took off. So we what happened was, before my interview with Citizen, we engaged the diplomatic community, because the status conference came to a halt. The bureau was in a meeting the whole day. And there were many people affected by the quagmire that existed. And in fact, if you see in this book, at one stage, I bumped into a law professor from Harvard who didn't know what was happening. He asked me, where are you from? And I didn't want to give my identity. I said, I'm from Tanzania. And then he said, what's going on? And I said, I asked him, I don't know. He said, there's a country called Kenya, which has issues here. And so when I talked to a number of the diplomats, and we could see physically, there was a young lady, a British diplomat, who was from the Foreign Office, Foreign Commonwealth Office. So we met the diplomats, the European Union. Me and Professor Kindiki went into their meeting and asked us, you guys explain to us what's going on. Because they're the ones who are pushing for the Kenyan case, particularly the British, Germans. So a number of them, you know, off camera, they told us, you know, you guys, we are not into this business. Our big brother. By then, the UK was part of the European Union. These are the guys who are pushing it. Then I decided to call a number of ambassadors back here home. I talked to the Italian ambassador, then in Nairobi. I talked to the French ambassador, then in Nairobi. I talked to a number of other ambassadors. And they said, we have no problem with Kenya. We have no problem. We are not part of this ICC. You talk to your former colonial power. So when I walked out, and it was the end of our functions that night, I bumped into a big camera, live camera by Hussein. And so I said what I said in the book. And Kesatana called me. I didn't pick the second time I picked. And he said, his main concern was, you should have said European Union. Why are you isolating?
Why are you singling it?
So I told him, my friend, you are not in the Hague. I am in the Hague. And I know what's happening. He didn't have the privileged information that I had. And then I went to go and sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, the first call I got was from State House. If you read that chapter. And I was told the president received a call early in the morning from David Cameron on this matter. And I told the president, I am ready to substantiate my allegations. And then that time, you know, there was a Defense Cooperation Agreement in Parliament. It was in my drawer, and I kept it for 2 years.
You had not tabled it?
Yeah, because the House was toxic. The issue of ICC was key agenda for the Jubilee, quote unquote, at times of CRPTNA. So I knew if I tabled that defense agreement could have flopped. Members could have rejected it. So I never, not only that one, I never used to hesitate to go and table a document for the sake of it if I know the House will reject it. Because you'll have another 6 months to go and retable it. So later, if you read this book, I went to House of Commons, Prime Minister's time, and then one evening, as I was flying to The Hague, I was called to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I think it's in that same chapter. And I met the Deputy Minister for African Affairs. We talked about all this, and he said, why are you not passing my Why is Kenya not passing a defense cooperation agreement?
Mm.
And I told him, you know the situation, man. As long as William Ruto remains at The Hague, the environment is not conducive for the ratification of your defense agreement, period. And after 20 minutes, he asked me, okay. In our discussion, he said, okay, so if we deal with this matter of the ICC,
we will get our deal.
We'll get our deal. I said, yes. And you know, you'll be shocked. Since then, I left the Commonwealth, Foreign Commonwealth office in London, and I took my flight to The Hague to attend to the proceedings. Just before William Ruto was off the hook by the judges, the thing moved very fast. William was off the hook. When I came back, I think I have documented. The then ambassador, Tana, by then has left. He went back to Foreign Office. I think he became a director of somewhere in African or Asian affairs. Then after Ruto was off the hook, people were celebrating, and I forgot everything. I went back to my business.
You did not table the difference?
No. Then I didn't table Nick Haley. Then the British ambassador called me and he said,
where's our agreement?
Where is the deal, man? They're part of... And that time, you know, it was not only me, it was me and J. Muturi, the Solicitor General then. Then I said, but there's a statement, you know, he made. Later I came to confirm from colleagues in the diplomatic world. He said, you know, if you don't do this, my government will have challenges. You'll have challenges with my government. So I didn't know that. The word challenge with my government is a serious diplomatic.
Yes.
So I went and asked people, what is that? They told me, man, that is a serious statement. Then I went to President Kenyatta and told him, man, you know, we have a deal with these guys. Can we pass this year? And then he said, fine. He talked to the deputy president. The deputy president was a bit hesitant. By then, he has not recovered well from the ICC. He said, I am not going to call a parliamentary group meeting
to pass
this.
Something for
this
the British.
document of the imperialist. That's the word he used.
It's interesting, Waziri.
So, but later when I wanted again to pass with a BG, then I fall into another, my turbulence from the Meru members of parliament who had issues with the Mira banning in the UK, the Maasai and the pastoralists because of where the British forces do their training. Then ODM also became a problem. I had to tell the ambassador, now you need to talk to Raila, because the late Jacoyo, my good friend, was also marshalling the opposition to reject it. But Raila called, when I was in the floor of the house, talked to Jacoyo, and later we passed. That's water under the bridge. So that's how the story was.
Do you think the Defense Cooperation Agreement and what was happening in Kenya could have played a role in making the UK stop or change tune with regards to the ICC case?
I don't think so. I think the judges act on the evidence and the facts that they had. You know, if I was around and you were around, the ICC case was more political. I think not even for Bensouda. I think for Ocampo, he bungled. You know, the first question we're asking is 3 from ODM, 3 from PNU. You remember the story of Kenya Human Rights Commission, Hassan Omar, who's now on our side, the way they were being accused of coaching witnesses and all this, the way the West government and...
So are you saying now then that...
No, I don't think so. But I think what the British government was, I think they were the facilitators. They were the political... You know, ICC is more of a political court. So they played...
so they were the political sponsors.
They were the political sponsors. And all these, there was more of an international conspiracy. You know, the ICC case basically more was a factor in who becomes the president in 2013. You know, the international community believed that Raila Odinga won and he was denied his victory in 2007. And the whole team of, I think, in the negotiation to end the post-election violence, a lot of the Western powers and even the international players like Kofi Annan and even our regional neighboring countries feel that, okay, Raila, please, for the sake of the country, we will support you in 2013. So the Western government felt like who might be the biggest threat and competitors to a Raila candidature. And I think they were not bothered about Kalonzo and Musalia and Saitoti. They were bothered about the biggest threat will come from William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta, and in the event they form a coalition.
And they did exactly that.
So you cannot delink the 2013 presidential succession, Kibaki succession politics from the ICC. Yeah.
It's interesting, even as we look at all of this, and then again, that chapter that talks about 22 minutes when you were on the phone with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he asked you very clearly if you were with him, and we're talking about 2022. He asked you very clearly, are you with me or are you with William Ruto? By the time you're having that conversation, it seemed like you had already made a decision about where you were. And even as we read the words of this book, it's clear that a lot of these decisions, whereas we on the outside who see them, it looks like, again, I repeat, looks like you're hopping from one side, but it seems to be very formulaic in nature. There's a lot of balance that's being applied. If I do, then what happens? Is that the case? Was that the case when these decisions were being made? When Uhuru Kenyatta was with you on the phone asking you, Dwale,
are you with
me
or not?
You know, after the 2017 general election, after 2018, 2019, I was, I think, one of the very few people. I was naive. I was in denial that the marriage between Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta of 2010, 2011, 2013, and The Hague is so cemented that I don't think these guys will have a problem and they will leave. So I was in denial. And when I go to William Ruto, I ask him, what's the problem? He says, there's no problem. When I go to Uhuru Kenyatta, he says, have you heard from me? I have no problem with William Ruto. So I was in denial. And again, I felt as a leader of majority, very critical office in the running of government, I should be the last person to fuel the differences. But you know, the gap and the differences was widening. And when the president called me, it's the first time I heard, of the word properly, the word split loyalty. I asked him, what is the problem? I'm doing the work of government and National Assembly. William is my friend, you are my friend, what's the big? He says, no. He said, my people, the people around me, the deep state then, they said, even if you change everybody in the leadership who are perceived to be allies of William Ruto, and you leave the leader of majority, Aden Duale, the big snake is still there. So he said, he convinced me that William Ruto has done this, is bad, please join me in the war. And I think that is one of the most difficult period. And if you ask me in this book of 32 chapters, which chapters I wrote with a lot of joy, and the ones that I wrote when I was thinking and said, this must be a difficult decision. So I think because, I have walked a very long personal and political journey with William Ruto. And being a Muslim, I had to think very fast. So I told the president, which I have not very much, I think, documented, because he didn't believe. He talked, and when he gave me a chance to speak, I told him, Your Excellency, I'm a Muslim. Secondly, I came to this coalition via URP. This man, William Ruto, took the top seat of the deputy president. The next seat was the leader of majority party, which the party gave it to me. This guy is very close to my family, to my children, my brothers, and he knows them. We have been with him many times. And he has never offended me, but he has contributed. If you go to my constituency and my bigger Muslim constituency, he's done a lot of Arambes. The footprints are there. I told him, Mr. President, if it is the office of the leader of majority, I'm ready to relinquish. Let me stay with this guy, friend of mine. And I think the president, when he looked at me, he couldn't believe it.
That you actually gave it up?
Yes. No, he couldn't believe it. I think he was expecting, and that's why I'm talking about when a friend, in that book, when a friend needs you, you need to stand with him. When you need a friend, you must stand.
He must be there with you.
So all these, fake loyalties, throwing your body at the altar of political expediency, betrayal, deceit. Because if you look at from 2005 to 2022, I think it's about 17 years. plus. I mean, the currency, the DNA of Kenyan political leaders and their politics is greed, is betrayal, is deceit,
Backstabbing.
Backstabbing. So one of the things that made me write this book is for the citizens to know that regardless of their political parties, regardless of the communities where they come from, regardless of age, we must look.
We should be loyal.
Yes, we must look at the politics and the leadership in our country outside the mirror of.
Can I ask you a question though about so? This book also gave us an opportunity to see you as an individual and things that we would have never known. I mean, you're a twin. You're the baby. The baby of the family.
Yeah. I have a twin brother, but not identical.
Not identical. It's interesting. Yes. Twin brother, and you talk about your experiences as a child, the poverty, the lack, your mother moving to Garissa.
Oh yes.
And you talk about a sense of community, and that when you wanted to get now into leadership, you thought about we saw how you came back and used CDF to make sure that there were toilets, made sure that you brought back dignity to people who poverty had taken away.
Yes.
So you had a loyalty to the community, you had a loyalty to people, and made sure that you used your position to ensure that people had that dignity.
Yes.
Is that a far cry from where politicians are today? Has that changed over the years? Because now you're talking about all this, all the games that are played. You're talking about the loyalty that's important. But then leadership really is then about that, taking your people from one level to the next. Or can you still do the
Yes, I'm talking about, positive. You can be with your community. And do what you call from a positive point of view. Okay, I am a Muslim. I still have some loyalty to that community, to the Somali community, to my constituency. But you should not use the community for your own negative partisan interests. Every one of us, in our own way, we come from different communities, different backgrounds, all that. But you look at it, pick even the handshake between President Uhuru and Raila Odinga. It was not a conclusive handshake. Kalonzo was not aware, Musalia was not there. So if you look at the positive ingredients in leadership, is where you start with your community, you empower them, you develop their socio-economic education, you extend it to the next community and to the wider Kenyan society. But you don't isolate your community, use your negative energy, negative profiling that will affect not only other communities, but the whole national architecture in terms of security, national security, cohesiveness, unity of the nation. So that's why I'm saying Kenya is a country of 43 or plus communities. Look at our neighbors today. The moment you cross the border, somebody talks only about, I am a Tanzanian. Yeah. But our politics has divided. We have allowed ethnic politics to entrench itself, not for the sake of that community, but for the sake of achieving power. If you look at the early part of my book, the history of that, how I grew up and all that. In fact, I picked that section is because, I wanted my story to be part of the Kenyan story for other people to read in the future. In the sense that a pastoralist, a poor hustler who was somewhere in Garissa and Dogo, who went to school with no uniform, no shoes, can rise to be the first majority leader under the new constitution and becomes the defense minister. That will inspire many, many young leaders to come. And again, the politics of deceit, all in this book. I am sure those who will join politics going forward,
they'll be prepared for it.
In fact, my book, I think, should be a study book for political science students, for those who want to join politics, for lecturers to use it for, I think, as part of their explanation. But 32 chapters, there are some chapters which are interesting. I'm sure when I was writing the chapter on the handshake and many others, took me a lot of time. But there are some which I wrote with a lot of joy.
You enjoyed them?
Oh, I enjoyed them.
It's an enjoyable book.
It is.
It is.
Thank
So
you.
far from what we've read, a very good one. Ednah Duale, Cabinet Secretary for Defence, who was the first, like you say, the first person under the Constitution to hold the office of Leader of Majority in the National Assembly, and establishing that office from scratch. And you're giving us all the intrigues, the ins and outs of the politics of the day and what you're saying. And what you've called the theme of the book is the kind of politics that we practice in this country. Thank you very much for joining us and for telling us more about the book. It's available. Go look for it in the bookshops. For the record, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Second Lady Pastor Dorcas Rigathi has cautioned against attempt to regulate churches, saying the government has no capacity and lacks the authority to regulate churches. Pastor Dorcas insisted that while the government is political unit exercising authority to rule, churches are spiritual movements that operate based on faith as the moral compass and conscience of society. She argues that because government lacks an understanding of how spiritual movements function, it would not have the capacity to control them. Pastor Dorcas also said regulating churches would amount to restricting the freedom of religion guaranteed by the Constitution 2010, and that the government should not condemn all churches uniformly because most of these churches are founded on values that aim at enhancing society. She added that while churches could be audited, such an activity could only happen internally and not be instigated externally by the government. And preachers in Bungoma County have raised their concerns over the government's decision not to include religious leaders in the panel created by President William Ruto to review regulations of religious institutions. They claim that the panel did not include leaders from all parts of the country, stressing the need for religious leaders to be given the opportunity to self-regulate. They opine that they support government's action against Pastor Paul Mackenzie and others who preach extremism.
Shakahola kule chini, sisi tunalaani hiyo kitendo, ni kibaya na hatuwezi kukubali kitu kama hiyo kuendelea. Hata kwa kanisa hatuwezi, lakini wacha watili na Mackenzie, watili na yeye as an individual, lakini kanisa sisi tumesimama kitete.
Mahali mtu alifanya utepetefu wa kazi, alizembea kazini na akaacha maafa ya watu 120 na zaidi, na huyo mtu anatakana afuatwe, Mackenzie afuatwe, wafunguliwe mashtaka kama individual, lakini kanisa achana nalo.
Anglican Church Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit has also called on the government to give religious leaders a chance to self-regulate, a statement that has been emphasized by other Pentecostal churches.
The Anglican Church recognizes the current statutes inadequate to deal with religious extremism and cultic bodies that operate under the guise of religious organizations. The Church will consider and support a governing law that will stem the proliferation of extremist or cultic practices, but must protect and promote religious freedoms for all our citizens.
And the Nakuru Church has also maintained that there are issues that cannot be investigated and controlled by the selected panel. It should be noted that Azimio has already filed a case in court against the creation of the panel to control religious institutions, insisting that it is against the law. Meanwhile, Jackson Ole Sapit, the Anglican Archbishop, has called out President William Ruto's administration over unfair public office appointments. Sapit said this shows lack of accountability in government agencies. The Archbishop also condemned the proposed Finance Bill 2023 over the new tax laws.
The majority of the population can ill afford tax increases which seem to feature glaringly in the said bill, while acknowledging that the fact that the high cost of fuel and the high inflation in the country has been caused by a myriad of factors, including global trends. We are concerned that the government has by default resorted to increasing taxes to snowball revenue collection.
Now, Kenya and the United Kingdom have signed a partnership to continue collaborating in the fight against terrorism, cybercrime and organized transboundary crime. Speaking during a joint brief, Interior CS Kithure Kindiki said they had signed security deals worth more than 1.7 billion shillings.
What we have just signed off is that we have identified the need to strengthen the flow of illicit financial activities and to be able to rein in on money laundering and the financing of terrorism and other illegal activities.
So working together is the only way to secure the British people, just as it's the only way to secure the Kenyan people. So this partnership, building on a long and deep history of friendship, is exactly what we need to be doing together, and I'm very proud to have a friend in Professor Kindiki who is showing the leadership in fighting money laundering, corruption, terrorism and state threats.
Artists, especially gospel singers from the counties of Baringo, West Pokot and Turkana, have started a plan to use songs to sensitize the community about the importance of peace and harmony. Led by Michael Loctet, who is one of the singers from the Tirok ward, they said that they have taken this step as their contribution to combating insecurity in the area.
Sisi kama wasanii wa gospel tumeweka kipaumbele amani na tumefanya collab nyingi sana. Kile sisi tumeweka mbele ni amani. Tumeungana wasanii wote wa Baringo, West Pokot County, Turkana County, tunaeneza amani kwa pamoja. Kwa sasa tunaomba tu ushirikiano viongozi wetu wakuwe na umoja. Watu waungane pamoja tumalize hii shida ya insecurity. Na sisi kama waimbaji wote tunatangaza amani na tunaeneza injili.
This is Newswire. Dennis Oseta, good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
It's a wet morning, so folks are going a lot slower than normal. Let's look at what's going on that North Airport Road. Heavy traffic. It's moving very slowly. Folks trying to get onto Outer Ring. Going towards the Eastern Bypass, it's going to slow you down some if you're heading in that direction, and it's bumper to bumper. Very slow. In some parts, not moving at all. Enterprise Road also busy trying to connect with Mombasa Road. Looking at Lunga, connecting off of Outer Ring. We're also looking at that Likoni interchange, touching on the Southern Bypass. Quite some traffic this morning. On Jogo Road, it's busy. Landis Road, even busier. Getting into the CBD this morning is going to be a bit difficult. It's going to take some time. Let's look at what's coming off Thika Superhighway from that Outer Ring Junction. It's crazy getting into the CBD. The Pangani Underpass also jam-packed. Juja Road, getting onto Moranga Road, coming off of Kiambu Road as well. Okay, so basically everywhere you look this morning, it's madness. The rain coming down also in some parts, so it's going to slow some stuff down. So folks are using the bypasses. You want to think about that. Use your service lanes on your major highways this morning. Talk to us on Spice FMKE on Twitter as we keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
minutes after
not
8.
down.
Good morning.
This
Welcome
is The
to
Situation Room, the
It's
only
live on Spice FM, KTN Home, online on Facebook and YouTube, where we broadcast every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And if you walk into I&M Bank today and tell them, well, you know what, I was listening to Spice FM this morning and they told me to come, they'll be like, karibu weshimiwa, kaa chini. Would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? We looking at you, we think you have a project that you're thinking of doing. What is it? You can tell them whatever you are thinking of doing, whether it's building a new home, building a big home, building a fast home, building a block of flats, whatever. Or, purchasing a vehicle, purchasing machinery. You are going big farming. Everybody is going into avocado farming in the country. Everyone. Akona ka plot, avocado. because it's the next big cash crop, or you're going into flower, whatever you're doing, and you're looking for some money, just walk into I&M Bank. They are giving you the largest unsecured personal loan in this country. And what is it? It's up to 10 million shillings. Imagine that. Up to 10 million shillings unsecured personal loans. All you need is your what?
Payslip.
Only. And then something else?
Letter from your employer.
Only.
And then a sit down.
That's it.
Alafu tutakushughulikia.
Hii mambo ingine yote tutakushughulikia. They say tunakujali. Walk into I&M Bank and tell them, I'd like this personal unsecured loan. And don't worry, if you have another loan with another institution, for example,
they can say, really? Let us take that for you. They buy it off and they say, now deal with us.
But those other guys told you they can only give you up to 5 million shillings. Leave them alone, bwana.
How much?
How much you want?
We take it and add on top for you.
Yes. And then
we
begin,
give you 8 years to pay back.
We begin counting from that day that you take. Up to 8 years. It's the best thing that you can think of. We have two gentlemen now joining us for the next conversation in the studio. And it's about development, okay? We talk about development of the country and how effective public policies can drive particularly the bottom-up economic model that is now being rolled out by the current administration. What's happening on that? So the people who are joining us, Jackson Obare is the regional manager for Eastern and Southern Africa at an organization called Forum CIV. CIV is not Kichungi, it is Forum CIV.
It's not the short form of Côte d'Ivoire.
It's not Côte d'Ivoire. It's Forum CIV. And he's joined by Professor Jack Mwimali, who's back here. He's the editor and CEO of the National Council for Law Reporting, what we normally know as Kenya Law. If you go online and you're searching for any new bill, any policy, any decision from the courts, any new law that's been passed, you'll find it on Kenya Law. Karibuni sana, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Prof, you've been here before, so
Yes.
we're going to start with Jackson, who is fresh onto the studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Eric. And I'm happy to be here this morning and to participate in this discussion, talking about policy, anchoring policy in the new economic transformation model of the government, the bottom-up. And as you've put, my name is Jackson Obare, Regional Manager for Forum CIV for East and Southern Africa, based in Nairobi. And a brief about Forum CIV, because we were discussing it. Is CIV, is it whatever?
Yeah, is it 104?
Is it 104? But Forum CIV is a Swedish international organization with our headquarters in Stockholm. And we work around the globe in 70 countries on areas of democracy, human rights, gender equality, and climate justice. And in these areas, as Forum CIV works, being one of the biggest platform organization in Sweden with 210 member organizations. These are not individuals. These are civil society organizations who have come together to form Forum CIV. So it's a strong voice around the globe. And working in each and every day as the organization is to contribute to a just and sustainable world where everyone, you and me, have power to effect change. And this effecting change could be political, social, and economic situation. And this is the work that we do in Forum CIV.
Very good. Karibuni sana. Let me give you the day's proverb. It's a Somali proverb. And I will not give it to you in Somali. I'll give it to you in English. A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or far away. A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or far away. Prof, what's your interpretation of this?
I think it's an issue of what we call in law hearsay evidence, where you want to invoke somebody who is not available to give their perspective to it. Yes.
But what do you think the Somalis are saying here?
They're saying, unless you are part of that conversation, you cannot be heard the way you would have been heard if you are present there. So essentially, if I say somebody is benefiting from something and he's not there, then I cannot be challenged. And in most cases, I may take the liberties of not being honest or truthful. So that makes me a liar because I'm invoking somebody is not present and in evidence to give that evidence.
Yeah, who's not here. Jackson, what do you think?
Nothing for us without us. If you want to do something for us, involve us to be in that kind of discussion. Then by so doing, we will have constructive discussions and solutions, basically to allude to what Prof is saying. Yes.
It's a very good perspective as well. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
Continuing now with what Forum Civ has been doing. So you work with the civil societies. I mean, it's the civil societies coming together and working in various countries to push these various things. What work are you doing in Kenya?
In Kenya, we still do the same work on the themes of democracy, human rights, gender equality, and climate justice. And currently, we are supporting about 28 Kenyan organizations, from grassroots organization to national organization, who are working on these different themes and in different counties in the country. Of course, our work is also regional in a sense, but to confine myself in the Kenyan context, so we have a diverse portfolio of these partnerships funded by the Swedish Embassy in Nairobi, but also from other donors as well, in work of ensuring that we have accountability of duty bearers and as well as accountability of the citizens, because as you put the government in check, but you also need to see, are you also responsible in the actions that you are undertaking at different levels? And so we have major programs. One of the major programs funded by the Swedish Embassy is called Wajibu Wetu Jumuika Sikika.
Wajibu Wetu Jumuika
Sikika. You know, our responsibility as citizens and responsibility as duty bearers. But then you have to be involved and your voice be heard in all this conversation. Then we have another innovative project called Public-Private Development Partnership. Is an abbreviation called PPDP, Inclusive Growth for Decent Work in the Great Rift Valley, and we do this project implementation with International Labour Organization. And that's the project also that has discussions on how do you anchor policies on what is happening at all levels to ensure sustainability of the initiatives that come. But we have another program called SASA, Strengthen Actions for Social Accountability. And this program is Kenya and Tanzania, still on areas of democracy, accountability, and gender equality.
So when we talk about public policy and how it will then affect, or how it should actually then drive the economic model upon which the present day administration is going to work in the country, well, many could argue about how that will actually come. Let's start with public policy. Obviously, some of the programs that you work within, right? What is the role of public policy, first of all? What is the role of policy? We hear it all the time. Policy documents have been written by technocrats around the country. Public policy then which should guide 1, 2, 3. Public policy then which guides different programs, whether or not you have PPPs in place and things like this. What is the role of public policy, first of all, before you then apply it to whatever model a current administration works within?
For any country to prosper, for any national or regional counties that we have in place, they must have a roadmap. What is the roadmap for this particular county? And therefore, what are the guiding principles that needs to make you reach these particular destinations? So at an overall level, you're talking about a policy guideline. What guides every action you want to do, whether socio-economic or political, in this case, to transform this particular community. So it takes into account the interest of the communities, but also the interest of the government, because they have a duty to see this transformation taking place in all aspects that touches society. Yes.
So, looking at the bottom-up economic model, many people have tried to define that. What do you think, or how do you think this plays out when you look at public policy in the way in which you've described it?
It's involving the people at the grassroots, because at the end of the day, any policy that comes in place, the implementation is at the community level. And if the communities are not involved, because we are called this at the bottom of the pyramid, then there could be a mismatch. As we say, the Somali proverb, nothing is for us without us. So the voices have to be heard for you to have effective policies that are in place.
And if I may chip in,
yes,
one of the emphasis that has now come in the legislative and policy making sphere within the government is that every legislation must be anchored in a policy. That you don't want to make a law without a policy background, without a blueprint that underpins that policy. And therefore, for us, you see a situation, and you pointed it at the beginning, you have very good policies. Somebody else goes and legislates. He's not aware of the existence of that policy, or even if he's aware, he's not looking at it as a basis for that legislation. So essentially, you end up having very good policies and sometimes very good laws, but they don't speak to each other. So you have two opposing policies and laws, and therefore you end up not achieving anything that you want for the public. So essentially, what we are saying, a policy framework must be created to lead to that legislation. How do you create this policy framework? You consult the people who are affected. And that flows in the Constitution. Public participation is at the core. So the civil society, therefore, comes in. They would tell you as members of the community, this is the gap that we think exists, and there is need for an intervention. That then is put in a blueprint that is a policy. And when you legislate over that policy, then you have a very good law that implements that particular policy.
Yeah. You know, Prof, I think not many people understand the metrics and what comes first and what fits where in this entire pie between policy, legislation, regulation, sessional papers, all these things. People just look at them as, okay, that's law. It's a piece of law. Just give us, as a mwalimu, a quick rundown of what comes where and the importance of each stage.
Thank you very much. Now, when you are talking about the legislative process, there is something that triggers that legislation. There is a need that must be perceived to exist for you to legislate. To articulate that need, there must be a policy. So a policy is that blueprint, a structure of why is it necessary, how can it be best implemented, who are the critical stakeholders for the implementation of these things that we want to do. So that is underpinned in that blueprint. That is a policy. Now, when you have that policy, sometimes you don't need to legislate on that. You just need executive action because we have this policy and therefore we can put a budget to it and implement. There are others that need now to be anchored in law. Now you take it to the legislative body. I'm using that term deliberately because now we have two levels of legislative bodies, the county and the national. So if it's a county issue, you take it to the county assembly. It is introduced as a bill. That bill is deliberated through a number of processes, the first reading, second reading, committee stage, and then it is passed. If it's at the national level and it involves the counties, you must also take it to the Senate. And after it has been passed, then you get executive assent. Either the president or the governor assents to it and it becomes a law. It's an act of parliament. Now, that act of parliament is enforceable even in court. The policy itself is a directive principle that may not necessarily be the document that the courts will use to enforce obligations. But the court can refer to the policy underpinning that law and say, for us to interpret this law, then we must look at why was it, what was the motivation behind it. So the policy is important in interpreting that law. Now, for you to implement that law again, you need a framework. Sometimes you use what we call delegated legislation, rules, regulations that are made in the context of a law to implement that law. So they are closely related and they work within the same plane, but they are aimed at enforcing some rights and duties as well as obligations against some critical stakeholders.
Can a county come up with a policy that is county specific?
Definitely. In fact, they ought to come up with specific policies for any of the activities that is within their mandate. For example, if you look at the Schedule 4 to the Constitution, it gives clear mandate to the counties on agriculture, and theirs is implementational. How do you implement something that you do not have a policy over? And in fact, that has been the major challenge, and I think my brother Jackson would speak to it in the areas of activities that they have been working. They have realized that sometimes somebody comes up with a law that has no foot because there is no policy against which it was created. And for us, especially where I sit as Kenya law, we are thinking that we must have a framework from the policy level, documented policy that lead to legislation. And you see that process sometimes changes. There's a way you have a policy that somebody takes a ride over and creates a law that was not within the policy. So we need to ask ourselves, was that what was initially intended? Or have you changed midway so that we have another document that has morphed from what we initially intended?
Sort of override the previous one.
Yes.
So is that the case then, Jackson? A lot of times we sit and ask ourselves about an implementation matrix for a lot of development projects, which obviously then fuel this bottom-up economic model that we see in the country many times, right? And we say, what's the problem? Implementation always seems to be the bane all the time. So are we seeing a direct link then between the absence of implementation is as a direct effect of lack of policy? Is that the case? There's no policy, or that a policy is not being used as a guide then for implementation?
It's not 100% as such, because then there are many factors into the implementation process. So that is one. Maybe there's incoherence in terms of policies absent, or it is there, and then there was diversion in terms of the law that's produced because of that. And that also comes because of lack of proper public participation. But there's another element there that talks about implementation is affected because lack of economic power, resources, because that is quite key. Now we have many laws or policies that are in place, but the counties are not able, even national government, they put on the shelf that this one we are not going to implement for now because we don't have adequate resources. But also there is political will. You know, the changes that happen either at national or county levels can be affected, the implementation can be affected because there is no buy-in from the political class. And that could also be put on the shelf. And I want to give an example at the national level. You know, we have the PPO Act, which came long time. And what is keeping it from implementation? There has to be some elements that the government is not comfortable with, and therefore they will not implement it. And another example, just in Nakuru County now, where on the gender policy, because of the transition from one government to the other, then it is put on hold, that this new team are not able to properly understand.
They don't see what was the rationale.
They don't see the rationale of it. But that prof will also address another issue. How do we ensure continuity during transitions from one regime to the other without wasting resources to start doing things that have already taken place?
Let's actually get into that, and on two fronts. One, national policy and county policy, okay? So first, say, you talked about devolution and their roles that have been devolved. So the role of the county government is to implement food security through agriculture, and health, okay, of the people through health. But then we say the national government has a role of policy and guidance. So explain, if the national government is coming up with a policy on agriculture, how does that affect, or how should that mirror with any policy that a county, say Makueni, comes up with on agriculture?
Thank you. The national government generally has a broader framework in terms of policy making, in the sense that whatever policy they are looking at is the one that is sustainable for the whole country. It means they are creating a kind of overarching roof against which every county must then look at how we pin into it. So they will extract something and then implement that within the role or mandate. Now, in the implementation, again, they must understand, digest and appreciate the national policy, say in food security. We want to ensure that our grain stock at the national level is sufficient to cater for the needs of the country. And if there is a shortage, then we'll have to import. You see, that's a national policy on food security in terms of grains. Now, if you are from Trans Nzoia where you grow maize, you say, for us, maize and wheat is very critical, and therefore we need to have a policy that anchors into what the national government would require, and then you translate it into how do we then ensure that farmers are able to get all the facilities to plant these grains and ensure that we are now sufficiently catered for. So you see, they also need to have a policy within the broader framework of the national policy that they will implement. And he's pointed something out. Recently, I had a conversation with a former governor. I think it was last week. And he said there was an act he gave us as an example, which they made, and they were very excited to have that act pass through the system. And then they passed. Having the act, they realized we don't have funds to implement it. And you see, if you take it to the public, they will say that we now have a law, we want that as a right.
Yep.
So what did they do? They put it under a shelf. Not because of ill will, but they realized we may not be able to implement it. So it's one of those things that Jackson
we may shoot ourselves in the foot if we actually pass this and gazette it as a law.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Let's take a break. We'll come back and continue on to the challenges and how we can then have effective public policy that guides the country, not just in 1 year, 2 years, one administration, two administrations, but longer term. 29 minutes to 9. The conversations continue. Professor, what has happened now to my notes? They've just gone like that. Professor Jack Mwimali is the editor and CEO of the National Council for Law Reporting, what we popularly known as Kenya Law. And Jackson Obare is the regional manager for Eastern and Southern Africa for Forum Civ. We're talking about the role of effective public policies in driving the bottom-up economic model. Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Oh my God, look at the curtains. Oh, and the shoes. Wow, my dream fridge. Oh.
What is it? My friend, you don't have money. Let's go.
Yes, yes, yes. I know what to do. The interest on my fixed deposit has matured to Songe Mbele na Kingdom Bank.
What is it about Kingdom Bank? Everyone is surprising me about this Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank move.
Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank. Kingdom Bank is now offering mid to long-term fixed saving with higher interest rates. Earn up to 10% interest from as little as 50,000 Kenya shillings on our fixed and core deposits. Enjoy a variety of our great services including savings and junior savings accounts for your kids. Get return on your fixed investments today at Kingdom Bank. Songa Mbele na Kingdom Bank. Shop now for all you want. Talk to us on 0709 881300 for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Kingdom Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
We'll see highs of 26. I beg your pardon, see highs of 21 through Nairobi, currently at 16. It's 16 and sunny in Nakuru. Mostly cloudy at 16 in Nyeri, and at 17 the sun is up in Eldoret. We'll see highs of 25. 30 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Mombasa, currently at 26, and at 27 Malindi is cloudy, highs of 31 and lows of 26 today. It's sunny at 21 in Kisumu, going to highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 27 in a sunny Kakamega at 19. It's mostly cloudy at 21 in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 28. 10 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 8, while it's cloudy at 28 in Lagos, highs of 32 and lows of 27. At 24, Kinshasa is mostly cloudy, highs of 32 and lows of 24.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so we're looking at heavy traffic still on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Getting into the CBD is quite a thing today, and it looks like it will take us out for some time. Looking at Kiambu Road, then coming to the city as well, that continues with traffic this morning. We're looking at heavy traffic on North Airport Road going towards the Eastern Bypass. The Southern Bypass, however, it looks good here, and you can use that as an option to get into the city and stay away from the traffic that you're bound to get on Uhuru Highway, then getting out towards Haile Selassie at the junction. James Gishuru, an absolute slowdown today. Over the drift and over to Wayaki Way, very slow. It's going through towards Red Hill and out towards Lower Kabete. So that whole network is very slow this morning. So you might want to avoid that. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Let's talk there and keep things moving through traffic hour this morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Continues with Jack Kumibali from Forum Save and Professor Jack Kumibali from the National Council for Law Reporting, talking about policies. How long should a policy last? Can you say that a policy, well, if a policy was implemented, was drafted, it should have a period within which it's relevant, after which either review or it dies?
Actually, it really depends on the subject matter. There are those policies that are eternal, so to say. We have certain programs that we want to implement, and the implementation is a continuous process. For example, gender policies. You develop a gender policy that you implement not within a period of time, but with provisions for amendment if need be.
Mm-hmm.
So that unless any change has been made, it's a policy that will continue to be operationalized. There are time-bound policies. For example, Agenda 2030, where Vision you are targeting, Vision 2030, you are targeting to implement or enforce certain things within a specified period of time. And those are very good, especially for economic developments, because then it gives you a target. And there are those that are short-term policies. Again, if you revert back to the, say, gender inclusivity and inclusion issues, you may have a policy that is intended to, for a short time, address a gap or a need that is there. Like in an organization, you may not have sufficient representation from certain departments. You don't foresee that this will be an eternal problem. Mm-hmm. So we are just creating it to allay this gap that we have identified. Now, in economic developments, there are those that you need as short-term or immediate policies that we want within this period of time. And that's when the government comes into office. They'll tell you within the first 100 days, we'll have done 1, 2, 3, or 4 things. In the next 5 years, if you give us, we'll have achieved so much. So that you can gauge us in that midterm implementation, and then you can give us another 5-year term. In 10 years, we would have achieved so much, but we want our legacy to go beyond the lifetime of our term in office if we are going to be ruling for 10 years. So those policies must accommodate all those factors. Again, it may be a broad policy that enshrines all issues that relate to a particular concern. So, for example, a policy on food security should also consider environmental welfare. It should consider inclusivity and balance, so that a number of areas will be incorporated in one policy. And when you're developing that policy, then you may want to afterwards legislate on different facets or aspects of that policy. So, for example, from that one policy, you may have a gender law, you may have a agricultural implementation law, and so on and so forth, from just one set of policy. But you may also come up with a policy that is intended for a particular issue or item. So it's very specific and it is targeted for that particular issue. Yes.
Okay. So now, what role then so government is responsible for putting together the policies that then they will be guided by for development and other things in the country, right? But then there are other players within this space, like you mentioned, civil society. What is their role?
Thank you so much. The reason why government cannot work in silo, that we are the one who can prescribe, because then it becomes a policy prescriptive without hearing the voices of the other actors. So the role of other partners in this multi-stakeholder dialogue approach is to ensure that you are able to pick diverse views and perspectives, because then there are specific needs of different categories of people. And civil society in this case is the voice of the people. And these voices also needs to be considered and taken into account while developing policy instruments that affects their very life that you want to improve. So in that case, whether it is civil society, academia, for example, the private sector, all the actors needs to come together in a partnership form. No wonder Agenda 2030 or SDG 17 talks about partnerships for sustainability. So in everything that you do, even at the national level, developing policies, that's why they call for public participation, and they want diverse participation from different actors.
I'm curious as to whether then, in the cases where we have seen the lack of implementation policy, do you find that these development partnerships then do not exist?
They do exist, but maybe they were isolated during the design phase of these policies. And this is what we are able to see. If you see at the grassroots level, for example, counties, they are confirming they don't have frameworks for public participation. And therefore, even the laws that they are policies that are going to pass can easily be challenged for lacking effective public participation. And in this case, we are not talking about the four of us
sitting in a room.
Sitting at every other meeting, you are seeing these are the names appearing. I think now there is a directive that it has to be effective participation, and then you see the diverse actors.
What is effective participation? And does it depend on who is saying it and defining it? Because the person who institutes it may say it's effective. People came. There was a room. What's effective participation?
Yeah, effective participation here, from my perspective, and I want to hear what Prof says, because they are following. They're the ones who ensure that the tracking down of this is. Do you have diverse people participate in these forums? Because, of course, if I'm the one convening, I can choose. I can I can define who is effective. But then once you have a framework that defines what effective participation is, then the framework is giving guidance in this regard. Who should be involved, for example, if you have people living with disabilities, if you have people, indigenous communities who are usually left out, how can their voices be heard? Because the policies you are going to put in place, they are going to affect them either positively, in most cases negatively, because their voices were not being heard, for example. Yes.
And to chip in, I think in yesterday's paper, there was a story of a project, a sewer that had been developed, a sewerage line or system, which the people refused.
People rejected it.
Yes, they had rejected that this is not a project that we want to enforce. Not that they don't need a sewerage system.
It's not their priority.
It's just that, and secondly, they have not also bought into the idea. It may even be a priority, but they may not have noticed. So effective participation has two elements to it. Number one, the explanation by the proponents of that project of its usefulness and utility. You know, sometimes you may need medicine because you are sick and you don't know. So the doctor ought to tell you, with these symptoms, I believe you have this disease and this is a prescription for cure. So whoever is moving needs to make the people who are receptive, the receivers of that service, to be receptive to it. But secondly, it also entails the people who are beneficiaries having their say into it, so that I have not already created and crafted everything. I just come to you for validation.
Okay.
You may have other very good ideas, and in most cases you realize I may have thought it, but a better idea emerges from those people because they are the ones who are touched by the projects that are carried on. I think the African saying, the wearer of the shoe knows where it pinches. It is them that will give you and say, if you, for example, move it and not put it here, then you will have the advantage of this larger group benefiting from it, so that it's not, it was a bad idea. It's just that it can operate much better if you give audience to the voice of those who are beneficiaries of that project.
A good idea can be made better.
Yes.
Are there instances, Prof, where we have policies that actually originated from the people? Not government drafting a policy and then saying, people, we are doing this because we heard and we thought that this is what you are saying, but actually people coming together and drafting a policy.
I think now it's becoming more common, although of course it may not have led to legislation. For example, they're working with the Narok and Nakuru counties. There was a number of projects that needed implementation. I'll give an example where there was a hospital, a police station, DC's office, all centered in a place in Suswa. And the people in Suswa were like, you see, if you go to a police station as a sick man, you are thinking, I'm not going for treatment. This is a police station. How do you have a hospital within the police station? So why don't we move it to a place where everyone will be comfortable to go to that hospital? Why don't we also put this? So they created a framework which was documented, and that you can then call a policy, that we will have our priorities to separate these entities, to fund them separately, to ensure that they are sustainable in a way. So essentially you'll find that at a grassroots level it's starting to take shape. What we are insisting, and where I sit, is that now we want to start documenting that and base it on legislation at the national and county levels, so at a higher level. And you'll find that in most cases, if you want to bring a bill in parliament, you have to either approach a private member who will then adopt it or give it to an officer that will lead it to go to the cabinet, consult the Law Reform Commission. And we have now been working with them where we say, from the interaction we have had with the masses, from the policies that we have documented, we see a gap here. So we are kind of transitioning these policies that are generated or developed at the grassroots by giving them to the Law Reform Commission, so that they can formulate it in a manner that then it can be presented as a bill which would then become a law. So it's something that we are working towards.
Because that's what would be a bottom-up policy formulation framework, where you say that the community has sat down, have identified a need, have identified what they think ought to happen, either immediate, medium to long term, and then it's crystallized and put together, and it ends up being adopted at either county executive level or national executive level. But then that route, we don't have a route yet.
Yes.
A clear route of, if community sat and thought, this is how they can ensure that it becomes adopted.
Unless through petitions, where you can petition Parliament through the various committees. Again, it's a very long route, and it's a long shot.
Yeah.
In most cases, unless you have somebody within the legislative organ who's bought into it, they will not, in most cases, implement. But I think the Constitution does give that as an imperative. And therefore, it's up to the people. Civil society now bridges that gap.
Yeah.
You see, they have a voice where they can go talk to the grassroots, listen to that voice, articulate it in a manner that is understandable at
that level,
documentation and policy level, and then now petition either the executive or legislator to act on those.
I want to go back. Sorry, I know you want to. I want to go back to one of the things that we spoke about before, the reasons as to why we don't see implementation of said policies. And of course, going to the old, it's almost become an adage now that Kenya has some of the best policies out there. Unfortunately, they're sitting on shelves and gathering dust, etc., etc. How do you link the present situation to an expertise, obviously, that is present in the country, but again, we're not seeing the implementation of such? What's the link between the two?
I think, as we mentioned first, is the political goodwill that is required. And of course, every time you have a change of government or regime, county and national, there's always that we have new things that we want to bring on board. So the old is past. And not connecting that the old, they are really, as you mentioned, they are long-term policies, they are short-term, and you find those long-term policies, if they are in place, you don't need to spend resources on creating new, only to realize that you could have actually implemented using the existing frameworks. That takes resources. Everybody comes with expertise, and I think you are able to see whether you have new governors. When they come with a whole range of teams. A whole overhaul, an overhaul of the entire system, even when competences that were there could still be retained for continuity, and that also affects that kind of implementation. Then people take time to settle in offices. By the time, 3-4 years are done, what was promised to be done, nothing has been done. So they are busy developing new instead of checking in the repository, in the archive, what are the low-lying fruits that we can pick and continue with the implementation, because the Mwananchi does not even understand these jargons we are talking about. Policy, for them they see needs, and these needs to be addressed. If you translate into policy, it's a technical language in that manner.
How can we ensure that a policy that is developed is actually implemented fully, irregardless, so to speak, of whoever's in office?
I think one of the shortcomings that we have realized where I sit is in terms of documentation, proper documentation and publication or publicizing it. And one of the things that now we are trying to do as an organization, as Kenya Law, is to actually get all these policies and then put them in a website so that anybody can make reference to them. It's accessible to all. But number two, you're not just looking at the end product in terms of the policy that has already been formulated. We also are looking to document the process of formulation. If it is a bill, for example, we are looking at what was the initial version, and we put it in history, in memory. What changes were made at the first stage? What changes were made at the third stage? Is it still speaking to what was initially intended? And any person who comes to our website would then be able to access and know. And as a member of the public, then you can come back and say, that was not what we intended. Remember, this was a policy statement. These were the policy imperatives. The bill that is an outcome of it does not speak to those policy imperatives.
How would you know, or how would you then be able to measure and tell, excuse me, if you went through an M&E at the end of it, how would you then know, this idea from the beginning, it has succeeded? How would you know that policy was effective at the end of the day?
So one of the quick indicators is to see the transformations of the key indicators that have been set. For example, if the policy, for example, I want to use for Nakuru, where we supported the SME bill, and it was already, went through the process, and it's an act. And then there is MOU signed with financial institutions to be able to provide subsidized resources, loans, to the communities of beneficiaries who are being targeted, in this case, youth, women, and people with disabilities. So you can track down and say how many have actually been able to access, because the intention was to have a financing mechanism that is not highly commercial for these enterprises to thrive. So you can easily be able to track on that if you use that particular example. But also, you can have that in place and people refuse to take loans because there are those who believe, like, for example, Maasai's, you are bringing these commercial entities and they are going to take our cows. And they will shy away and go back to the Shylocks, which is quite expensive. So the intention is to measure. There are things that you can measure, but also there are others that are difficult during implementation. You can check it against. But I think one of the success, if you say you already have a policy in place for posterity, then it is also an indicator of success in itself, that it can also act to some extent as a deterrence of some sort of things if you are to be engaged. And I want to use, for example, anti-FGM policy, because it's a guidance and it outlaws this act, and therefore if you are engaged in, at least somebody can be able to use and say, this is what this act says, and you are in contravention of it.
CIDPs. Okay, we are now in the third bunch of CIDPs. County Integrated Development Plan. It's looking at it in 5 years. These are the dreams of the people in this county, and we put it together into a booklet. And those things, I don't have the figures, but I estimate maybe about just 20% of what's in a CIDP ever even sees light when it comes to implementation. How can we ensure that a CIDP actually lives up to the ideals of why it was even initiated in the first place?
Okay, that's a comment I wanted to make when he was explaining, and it's good you've asked it. One of the things we did, and for sampling Nakuru and Narok, where we have that public private development partnership project, was to take it a step down. In the sense, this is a document that talks about the entire county. And if I'm in Nairobi, I'm in the extreme end. I don't know even what the county is planning for that particular place. And we took through these communities through a process with the county government's economic planning on what does the CIDP contain and what is the aspiration of the county. But then they said, we don't see our needs captured here. Then we went through the process of customizing for them to identify what are their needs and the priorities that are linked to the broader strategy of the county. Then we developed with the county simplified version, but specifically for those particular locations. And I can tell you, after that process was successful, that's why we're able to say now that the community in Suswa, they said we wanted a hospital. And I was told since independence, there was no health facility in Suswa. But in 2020, that facility was opened, because then they lobbied government to convert a revenue office, which was idle, into a health facility. And that was now something that they needed urgently, and the government implemented. Now you see at the county level, it is very broad. We want to provide access to healthcare services. But how does it translate to the lowest? And then there's another community, still from Nakuru side. They said, we have a health facility here, yes, but we don't have somebody, a lab, who does the tests. So whenever you are sent there, you are told, go to Naivasha Sub-County Hospital
for tests.
For tests, and the result come. They lobbied the county, and the county employed that person. So you could see they have really translated this CIDP into their needs, but yet they are linked to the overall CIDP. And I think if that is cascaded across, it requires a lot of resources, but if it's cascaded, you can for sure see development. And that's why some funds go back to the National Treasury, because they were not spent.
Lack of absorption.
Because downstream prioritization has not been done.
Has not happened.
Yes.
So I think there are two things to what he's saying. Number one, is that you need to translate these documents into words or into something that people would understand.
Mm-hmm.
You may have these ideals that you have put in a document, but those ideals are not understood by the people that it is intended to benefit. So you need to translate it in a language that would be understood. That's the first part. The second one is also vigilance. You need to also follow up. You see, sometimes you tell people we have a public participation forum. Nobody bothers to go.
Yeah.
Or a few of them go. And then after you've gone, what next? If they have not followed it and it's documented, there's evidence that we said this was the priority for this year, we need to make it. And that's, again, a role that I see we complement with the civil society, where they also have to lobby for implementation and they also have to hold to account. Because sometimes, sometimes we are blamed in government because we have so many things we are doing. It's not just that project in Susu. We have so many locations and districts, and therefore whoever is on our face is the one that we
gets the priority
first. So that would be, the people should actually now be in our faces.
That is the wajibu wetu.
Yes.
Kujumuika. Ndio tusikike
kabisa.
Bas. Thank you very much, Jackson and Jack, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Jackson Obare is a regional manager for Eastern and Southern Africa at Forum CIV, and Professor Jack Mwimali is the editor and CEO of the National Council for Law Reporting, also popularly known as Kenya Law. We have just learned a lot about, the need for public policy, effective public policies, and public policies that then can be implemented, and why we all need to participate in these conversations, and why the civil society also has a big role to play. They're not evil. They have a lot that they can help us with. Keep it here for more conversations. A very good morning to you. 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Jackie Maribe and her ex-boyfriend Joey Irungu will today defend themselves in a case they are accused of having murdered a woman in Nairobi. The two will appear before Justice Grace Nzioka. In March, the court found them with a case to answer. Justice Grace Nzioka on March 29th said the prosecution had proved beyond reasonable doubt that the duo had a hand in the murder of Monica Kimani and put them on their defense. The judge made the findings after hearing testimonies from 44 witnesses and after considering submissions from the prosecution, Joey and Maribe. The duo was charged in 2018 for the murder of Monica Kimani, who was found dead at her house in Lamuria Gardens in Nairobi. Elsewhere, a court will render its sentence in a case where Nakuru Town West MP Samuel Arama was charged with a 60 million shillings graft case. Arama was in March this year found guilty of defrauding a businessman of his land worth 60 million shillings. He and 4 others were convicted of conspiracy to defraud charges. Nakuru Secretary General Francis Atwoli has said that the 3% proposed to be directed to affordable housing is not a tax but money that will be returned after a certain period. According to Atwoli, President William Ruto gave details about the fund and how civil servants will contribute.
Hii sio tax, na wewe sio rahisi upate pesa kutoka kwa mwajiri wako. Hii wewe utakuwa unatoa 3%, maximum of 2,500. Na employer pia atatoa 3%. Anaongeza kwa hii yako. Total inakuwa 6%. Na hizi pesa baadaye ukitaka kutoka unachukua na interest. Unapata pesa zako na interest.
Atwoli wondered why other workers' unions opposed to the deduction itself, accusing them of not attending the meeting of President William Ruto with the workers' unions.
The proposed deduction as it stands will not have any benefit to the employees and instead will burden their purchasing power, which is already adversely affected by the inflation.
The public servants are already struggling with life.
Hawa maofisa watatu hawakukua kwa hiyo mkutano. Hawakukuja Labor Day. Wakati wanajua hii maneno inahusu members wao. Iko very touchy. They decided not to attend Labor Day. Alafu but hata hawakukuwa katika ule mkutano wa KICC. Wale wa NAT walikuwako, wale wa KUPPET walikuwako, wale wengine ambao kutoka katika vyama vingine, hata wa madaktari walikuwa pale, nurses walikuwa pale, viongozi wao, au wengine wote from public service based trade unions walikuwa katika huo mkutano.
Now, the proposals in the Finance Bill 2023 where employees are supposed to pay 3% of their salaries to fund affordable housing has continued to be criticized by various stakeholders. The stakeholders say that the plan is ill-timed, especially at this time the country is facing economic challenges. The affordable housing program was initiated by retired President Uhuru Kenyatta as one of the 4 main agendas of the government. At the time, the program recommended that employees donate 1.5% of their salaries to the housing fund. However, the plan was suspended in 2018 due to a lawsuit filed by the workers' unions, who complained that the public was not involved in the whole process of salary deductions to contribute to the construction of affordable housing. However, in the current plan, the government has revised the rules of the housing fund where, unlike before, those who fail to pay will not take any action. Also, the payment period for those who want to withdraw has been reduced. Now, Embu County loses 20 million shillings annually due to extra pay of county employees. Governor Cecily Mbarire has said that there are people who get paid twice, a situation that contributes to money laundering. Speaking after receiving the report on the use of funds, the governor pointed out the presence of ghost workers in the county. She noted that those who received salaries will be forced to pay, while those who approved it will be taken legal action. Legal action will be taken against them. He has said that the investigation has determined that there are more than 1,000 workers working in the county against the law.
Discrepancies between what one was employed for and the amount of money they were supposed to be paid as per their job or job description and what they are paid in the payroll. There's discrepancy. So there are people earning more in the payroll than they should as per their letter of employment. So that way we are losing about 20 million per year because of that. So that's one of the cleanup exercises we are going to do. And then of course people earning allowances they shouldn't be earning. For example, there's somebody earning a house allowance and a rental allowance at the same time, which amounts to one and the same. So we have to also deal with that. The numbers counted are more than the number on the payroll. So that means we don't have ghost workers.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Oseda. Good morning.
Okay, it's a few minutes after 9 o'clock and we're looking at traffic still coming off the Thika Superhighway. Wow, it's been one for the books today. It's been pretty heavy. The weather's not helping because it slows down because of the rain here and there. All right, just past the the Pangani underpass is where we're looking at traffic now. Still heavy. Coming off Kiambu Road is still doing the thing. James Gishuru is the one that is giving, and it's giving way past Waiaki Way, over Kuna Road, over into the Red Hill Link Road. So that's a whole mess. You're going to have to contend with that if you're already on it. We're also looking at traffic spilling over from Lunga Lunga and Lusaka through to the interchange. So there's still traffic there. Into the CBD is where most of it is happening this morning. Take a look in about half an hour and see what that looks like. Spice FM, KE on Twitter. Keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 9. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of The Situation Room. It's Thursday. Hashtag Justice Thursdays. As you know, every Thursday we have a conversation that looks at accessing justice. Social transformation through access to justice is Chief Justice Martha Koome's agenda for her tenure. And we have been having that conversation. We thought, well, it actually sounds interesting. So let's talk about the social transformation then. And it's about accessing justice. It's about people accessing justice, which is why we decided to take up that and say we'll be having these conversations every Thursday. Wow. Today's conversation is on looking at how a program called Plead 2 bolsters a people-centered justice. And we're joined by two ladies for the conversation. Her Excellency Henrietta Geiger is the EU Ambassador to Kenya, and Jedida Warohio is the CEO of the Kenya Witness Protection Agency. Now, that one is interesting. Kenya Witness Protection Agency. Hi. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
We call that the hot seat, and now that also the hot seat, Jedida.
Thank you.
Enjoy the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yeah.
We're going to have a conversation around justice, so we'll make sure that this one is a very just one. And because, Jedida, you take care of witness protection, you'll also be nice. You never know. You never know when you will be a host, a guest of Jadida's.
Yes.
I have the day's proverb. It's a Somali proverb. I'm going to give it to you in English, not in Somali. We had Aiden Duale, the CS for Defense, earlier. He gave it to us in Somali, and I didn't get a word. Did you get a word from?
Character.
Was he here today?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Earlier. And so here's the proverb. It says, a liar calls as witness one who is either dead or away. A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or away. Let's start with the person who protects the witnesses. Jedida, when you hear this proverb, what's your interpretation of it? A liar calls as a witness one who is either dead or away.
Wow. I'm just thinking, how do you call a dead person to witness? It therefore tells me that I think it's important that we call those who are away to come and witness. It is easier because we cannot call those who are dead. We can only respect them and wish them well. Yes.
So you call the one who's away?
The one who is away.
But that's also far.
It is still, it's nearer than the dead.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's accessible to me. Yeah.
It's still accessible.
Yes, that's what's important. And it also tells me that a witness is very, very important in any situation, including in this situation.
There should always be a witness.
Yes.
Balozi, what's your interpretation of it?
I'm not really sure I understand the proverb, but I mean, witnessing is a very difficult task. First, because we all have our perceptions.
Yeah.
And what you recall, if you ask 10 people about the same situation, you will get 10 different perceptions of the reality.
Yeah.
And also witnesses are very easily intimidated. So even if they're not intimidated by the one who's being accused in the trial, you have just intimidation by coming into a courtroom with a judge. People maybe coming from far away, maybe they have also language barriers, maybe they don't have a very good education, so they don't really understand what's going on. So I think it is very difficult to be a good witness. And I myself worked in the court system for some time, and I remember, so I was a social worker assigned to young offenders. And in one case, there was a young lady who had a bad case of drunk driving. And there were 40 witnesses in the courtroom. That was her sports club. And they were all witnessing in favor of her, and it was all, later we found out it was all a hoax. So 40 people lying for her because she was a member of the sports club. So witnessing is not an easy thing. I also, when I was young, I was called to witness in a sexual offender case. And I remember I was maybe 11 or so, and how intimidated I felt. I had to identify the perpetrator, I had to identify clothing, and it's very difficult to recall very well. So I think it's very, very important to
have the right witness.
Yes, to have the right witness and to help the witness to give the best testimony.
Now think about this proverb: a liar calls a witness as a witness one who is either dead or away. Start with the liar. So the person who is testifying is first of all lying.
Oh, the word was a liar.
Yes.
I heard it like a liar.
No, liar I understood, but I still don't understand.
So the liar is basically
a liar.
They are calling somebody who is not going to be easily available and accessible. So either the person is away, so they are not here to actually testify, or they are dead, so they are not here to actually testify.
They can no longer
and this person
testify.
is lying. You see? They're basically saying, this is, if you see somebody who's just quoting somebody, he's either dead or so on, so you know, who used to live here, and nowadays we don't know where he moved to, that person's account, take it with a pinch of salt. Let's talk about witness protection. We see it in the movies. We see it in series. We've heard about it in Kenya. There's an agency in Kenya. Introduce us to the Witness Protection Agency in Kenya.
Yes, Kenya is governed under the Witness Protection Act. It's an act that was enacted in 2006 and operationalized in 2008. The Witness Protection Unit started as a unit in the DPP office when it was in the office of the Attorney General. But in 2011, it was operationalized as an independent institution with operational autonomy. This is the second witness protection program in Africa. The first one is in South Africa, and Kenya learned from South Africa. The Witness Protection Agency has been there for the last 10 years, and its work is to protect witnesses who are at risk, who are intimidated, or who are threatened because of the important information that they hold, and they are cooperating with the prosecution or any other law enforcement institution. It could be the investigation, it could be the court, it could be other institutions like ESCC, among others. So the agency has been protecting those vulnerable witnesses. We have many witnesses, but there are those who get into the threshold that their risk profile is so high. The information they hold is so important. They are willing to cooperate, but they are afraid for their life. They are afraid for the lives of their family members. Even the information they hold can negatively impact another person. So the agency receives those kind of applications, either from the witnesses themselves or from other institutions, state institutions and non-state institutions. The agency works very closely with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. It's one of the referrals, the National Police Service, especially the DCI, the ESCC on issues of corruption, and it has handled many serious cases from transnational organized crimes, issues of terror, issues of corruption, issues of murder, issues of SGBV, human trafficking. And the agency works well when there is interagency collaboration, because unless someone comes to us and says, I'm at risk, we may not know, unless that matter is of a public interest and it's out there, and we go out of our way and find out who needs our support. Because remember, there is no trial a criminal trial without a witness. If there are no witnesses, then the case is lost. If there are no credible witnesses, and usually the credible witnesses are those that the accused person does not want to have in court, then there is no conviction, there is no trial. We also protect those we call justice collaborators. And these are witnesses who maybe have been part of the criminal enterprise and have done either a plea bargain or have chosen to work for the state as a state witness. So we also protect those. And when you think about the very serious crimes, justice collaborators in the future will become the witnesses who will assist us in terms of prosecuting these very serious crimes.
When you say protection, what does that mean? What do you do?
The first line of defense is the National Police Service. They're the ones, they're our first protectors. Then the second line is the judiciary, which also has protection measures. And when a court is like in Sexual Offences Act, you find the court will have closed hearings, camera hearings, because of the nature of the offense. We are the last line of defense. When all that is not working, we come in to provide special protection. So ours is special protection. So we have special protection measures. So the Act gives us the opportunity to establish and maintain what we call a witness protection program. So you can have a law, but you don't have a witness protection program established. 2, it gives us the power to establish the criteria of admission into the witness protection program. And therefore it means your some part of the criteria is it a serious offense? Are you at risk? Are there other options that are available for you to secure you for the trial? Can you be able to adopt to the witness protection program? Because it's a very close program. You are excluded from your usual.
So what does it entail?
It means you come into the program, if you qualify, you sign a memorandum that gives you, it's a memorandum of do not talk to, do not move, so that we are able to keep you safe. So some of the witness protection measures include physical protection, 24/7 physical protection and armed protection. It includes change of identity. It includes court protection measures like having, when you go to testify, you have video link conferencing so that you distance yourself and have the safety and the confidence. It also includes voice distortion or identity distortion, because the purpose of special protection is to reduce the recognition. We protect your identity, and we protect any identifying information, and we protect your physical security. So it's a special measure that we have to undertake on a case-by-case basis.
So it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes. And
not everybody gets the same thing.
No.
There are people whom you will protect by actually removing them from their community.
Yes, relocation.
Relocation.
Yes.
Is it permanent relocation, or is it just during the duration of the case? Maybe is it time-bound?
It depends. We can relocate you even and evacuate you when investigations are taking place. We relocate you up to the time your risk profile comes down.
Okay.
So we'll keep on assessing your risk threshold before the charge, during the case, after you have testified. And it is the risk profile that will determine whether we continue providing with special protection. And when we relocate you, it can be temporarily, it can be permanent. It all depends. And we can relocate you both within Kenya and out of the country. It all depends on your nature of case.
Okay, so looking at how things happen, not just in Kenya, but around the world as well, that then would you look and say in Kenya it was necessary to have this act personified, as it were, because of the prevalence of danger that came against would-be witnesses? And that's why you said it was necessary to have this here. Because do you have high prevalence? Do you have high rates of witnesses potentially being in potential danger?
Yes. This act actually was triggered by issues of terror in this country. Remember the Kikambala bombing at the coast?
Yes.
It was very clear and very evident that there were no witnesses who were coming to court to testify. And therefore, it was we needed to get a solution. No one is even giving in any intelligence information. We can't even prosecute. So the thought of establishing this agency became very apparent, and that's how the Witness Protection Act was conceived. Then we went to and when that happened, and we were called in the coastal area to assist, then we had the first witnesses get confidence and say, yes, I will say something, but on condition that you relocate me out of this country after I testify and take care of my family. That was the condition, and it happened, and that's when the wheels of justice started to flow on issues of counter-terror responses. Now, very many witnesses generally are at risk, because of the nature of our justice system.
Yeah.
So many accused persons will intimidate, even on small offenses. So the act just comes to help us, especially deal with the very serious offenses. But there are mechanisms that we must strengthen so that we don't get to the last resort of witness protection, because it's a very expensive protection measure, special protection measure. So the courts, one of the things that we have been working very closely with the judiciary is to establish what we call witness boxes that also have voice distortion equipment. And last year, in December, during the International Human Rights Day, in partnership with the EU and UNODC, we were able to launch 21 witness protection boxes that are not only boxes, but now have a special component of voice distortion, so that in usual cases that a child feels vulnerable, an adult feels vulnerable, the court on its own motion can use those facilities. We have to also ensure that we develop a court system, what we call protection pathways, so that people, when I'm coming to give evidence in court, I feel safe. I'm not using the same corridors my accused and others.
You're not meeting in the corridor.
No. Exactly. Yeah, usually that's the sign.
Yeah.
And when you see that sign, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
So that you feel safe, there's a place I can wait, then I come and testify. There are requests you can make to court to make it much more safer and easy for you to testify. Because again, an intimidated witness, however much information they have, they will not be able to share. Think of a child who has witnessed murder.
Yeah.
Think of the child even has witnessed murder in very close family proximity, and they are testifying against a relative who is an adult. Yeah, so the frequency is high in terms of witnesses being intimidated, but we cannot be able to onboard all witnesses. That's why our risk threshold is high.
Balozi, as the European Union, I would imagine that you also then offer support in this entire ecosystem of witness protection, in seeing that at least our Witness Protection Agency is able to do the things that it ought to be doing. What kind of support do you offer?
Well, the Witness Protection Agency was getting support as part of our justice sector reform program. So for the last 5 years, we have been supporting Kenya to reform its justice sector. So we just yesterday launched the second part of that program. So it's a huge program. It's 70 million euros, which is how much in shillings?
About 5 million.
Times 100.
5 billion.
About 5 billion.
So part of the program, which is called Program for Legal Empowerment and Aid Delivery in Kenya, is to help make justice in Kenya more accessible and fairer to all. And one key element is the witness protection. And witness protection exists in almost all countries around the world, certainly in Western countries, because it is a global problem. it is a global problem. And just last December, we were together to inaugurate those 21 witness boxes, which are mobile.
Yes.
So you can carry them from one courtroom to the other. And I was sitting inside myself with having then a male voice coming out, and nobody can see when you're inside. It's really great. And I think it is one of the key ingredients for a fair justice system.
Yes.
So that's why we decided to support the Witness Protection Agency. But as you pointed out, this was part of the Director's Office, Directorate for Public Prosecution, which we're also supporting. We're supporting the entire justice chain. Because, of course, it's only as strong as its weakest link.
Sure. Yep.
But this is a huge investment in a very sensitive area. But we really liked the ambition of Kenya to reform its justice sector. And we feel that this is at the heart of any good governance in a country. That's why it's so important for us. And last 5 years, we've seen incredible change in the justice system. Of course, change takes time.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing another 5 years. But for example, now, you can have a lot of all the proceedings digitalized. So you do not have to go to the court yourself. You can do it from the comfort of your home. Some do it in prison. During COVID, the justice sector and the court system got almost all digitized very fast, and it's most impressive, and that helps even the business cases. They can do their court hearings digitalized. We help greening the system, so now they have a much reduced power bill, so their energy consumption went down because they have solar panels everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're not disrupted during the trials due to power outings. We worked a lot on access to justice, especially for the vulnerable, those in distant locations, poor conditions, marginalized groups, because we feel that justice has to be the same for everybody. So we're very encouraged, and we just started the second 5 years with another 35 million euros. And what is most impressing me is that what we're doing is we're just supporting the actors here in Kenya. And you have a lot of ownership, not only of a very committed and passionate Chief Justice. So yesterday in the launch, she committed 150% to the reform of the justice system. But we all know that the leader is only as good as the people working for her or him. So we need ownership in the entire system. And when you were just talking about witness protection, you need also an awareness in the system where the problems are. So only then you can find solutions. And we're working a lot also on the integrity in the system, the pride and the integrity of judges, and also the policeman on the street, the prosecutors. Everybody needs to develop that level of integrity. And it's easier said than done, because, of course, you have traditions, customs, habits, and you also, in some cases, you still have low salaries that entice people to get some extras on the side. So it's but for example, on the traffic fines, in this new phase, we're trying to have instant online traffic fines, which will close a lot of opportunities for corruption on the street.
And enhance justice.
Yes,
most
please.
importantly.
Yeah.
Because when you have that instant fine, then you've enhanced justice. You know that this is it. This is the offense that you've committed. This is the fine. You pay it immediately.
Yeah.
You know that you have actually gone through the justice system. Other than that other one where you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And that also now leads to you just participating in bribing, because you just don't know. You're trying to
Want
avoid
to get away from the trouble.
Exactly. Let's take a break on this note. 27 minutes to 10. Having a Justice Thursday conversation today. It's about a program called the Program for Legal Empowerment and Aid Delivery, and the phase 2 has been launched, and how this is helping to bolster people-centered justice. Our two guests in the studio, Balozi Heinrich Geiger, she is the EU ambassador to Kenya, and Jedediah Warohio is the CEO of the Kenya Witness Protection Agency. Some questions are coming in already. I'm seeing them on social media. Jedediah, I'll ask you after we take this break.
Okay.
As we take the break, remember to walk into I&M Bank today and tell them I heard this on Spice FM, because they are giving the largest unsecured personal loan in the country. Imagine that.
Yep.
Up to 10 million shillings. We tell them.
10 million shillings, imagine, and you can pay over 8 years. So what do you need to do? You have a payslip and a letter from your employer. You walk into the bank, you say, I'm here. They said I come. They say, do you have those two things? Yes, we do. How much do you need? This how much I need. Okay, come. Do you have a loan with another bank? Yes, I do. Okay, we'll buy that loan. We'll give you money on top. And we'll give you up to 8 years to pay.
And what's the interest rate?
You discuss the interest.
Talk about it now.
My very question. That's the interesting question.
We call it competitive interest rates.
Okay. Market competitive.
Yes.
Don't even worry about it.
Walk into I&M Bank today and talk to them, or you can call them on 0719 088 000. That's 0719. Write that down, Jedediah. 0719 088 000. Yeah. When you come to Spice,
getting it now?
Of course, she'll think about
It's
it.
for the loan, a 10 million loan.
She's been having some projects that she's been thinking of, and she has a payslip.
Yeah.
And she has an employer who can give her. She knows the CEO of the Witness Protection Agency.
That can get me
a house?
1.5 cars, which is very important for witness protection.
Especially the half.
1.5 cars.
25 to 10. Back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Oh my God, look at the curtains. Oh, and the shoes. Wow, my dream fridge. Oh.
What is it? My friend, you don't have money. Let's go.
Yes. I know what to do. The interest on my fixed deposit has matured to Songambele na Kingdom Bank.
What is it about Kingdom Bank? Everyone is surprising me about this Songambele na Kingdom Bank move.
Songambele na Kingdom Bank. Kingdom Bank is now offering mid to long-term fixed saving with higher interest rates. Earn up to 10% interest from as little as 50,000 Kenya shillings on our fixed and core deposits. Enjoy a variety of our great services, including savings and junior savings accounts for your kids. Get return on your fixed investments today at Kingdom Bank. Songambele na Kingdom Bank. Shop now for all you want. Talk to us on 0709 881300 for more information. Terms and conditions apply. Kingdom Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
All right, a few minutes after 9:30, and we're still looking at traffic in certain parts of the city. More or less done on the Thika Superhighway. That Pangani underpass can be like an itch, but you'll be able to get through that in short time now. Muranga Road also then getting into the CBD will slow you down just a tad. James Gishore is still giving that traffic, guys, and it's getting over towards the Red Hill Link Road. Still some traffic there, so you're going to have to contend with that if you're out in that direction. On North Airport Road, there was traffic then going out towards Outer Ring. That seems to have cleared up just at that junction between North Airport Road and Outer Ring. There's some traffic there, but apart from that, I can say we are out of traffic hour for this Thursday. The heavens have opened, so there's still a little bit of rain here and there, so it might slow things down a tad, but be careful because roads tend to be slippery when that happens. Let's talk through the morning on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseton. A total of 14 counties in the expansive Lake Region Economic Bloc will benefit from Safaricom ICT Financial and Infrastructure Products. LREB is one of the most densely populated regions of Kenya with 14.9 million people who constitute about 31.4% of the population in Kenya. Local carrier SafariLink will suspend flights between Nairobi and Kitale due to unfavorable business environment. Success on the route has been derailed by high cost of fuel and below par airport facilities that led to flights being cancelled. Its exit from the route comes after resumed flights to the route last year. Kenya Breweries Limited has committed to train 60,000 farmers on sustainable agricultural skills and resources that will help them build their economic and environmental resilience in the face of climate change. The company will also equip smallholder farmers with the means to successfully build a profitable enterprise while ensuring the utmost quality product enters their supply chain. The announcement was made at an agricultural forum hosted by KBL in Nairobi. It aimed at fostering meaningful discussions around regenerative agriculture and climate change. The Ministry of Energy is looking to build domestic masonry biogas plants using cow dung in 20 counties. In a tender document, the ministry has invited bidders for the construction, testing and commissioning of the projects. They will be built in devolved units such as Nyamira, Kisii, Uasin Gishu, Laikipia, Homa Bay, Kakamega, Tharaka Nithi, Narok and Nandi. Others include Migori, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Bomet and Bungoma, among others. International Fertilizer Development Center is looking for a corporate MEL coordinator with a bachelor's degree in agriculture and international development with at least 5 years of experience in monitoring and evaluation in international development. Suitable candidates are required to send their CVs and cover letter by 12th of May 2023. Visit jobs.digga.co.ke for more information on these and other jobs. Digga Jobs, your credible and trusted jobs partner.
Spice FM Business.
Get Kenya's largest unsecured personal loan of up to 10 million Kenya shillings from I&M Bank Kenya.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
For the next 30 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Accessing justice in the country, Jedida Warohio is the CEO of the Kenya Witness Protection Agency and Ambassador Henriette Geiger, the EU ambassador to Kenya. Jedida, you introduced us to the Witness Protection Agencies, told us there are only 2 witness protection programs in Africa.
Yes.
That are legal. Well, maybe there are others that,
that are properly structured in law and in practice.
Kenya and
South Africa.
A question that has come to me on social media, somebody's asking, has Kenya's witness protection program ever had to relocate somebody from Kenya to go and start a new life, change identity, start a new life elsewhere?
Yes, we have had to do that. We are yet to use the change of identity because that is quite a permanent special measure. We've not had the situation to do that, but we have had situations to relocate out of the country. We are still facing a small challenge, which we are hopeful will surmount it this year. We have draft regulations. We are calling them the reciprocal regulations. These are regulations where you reciprocate across jurisdictions, Kenya with another country with us, so that we are able to take witnesses who need temporary or permanent relocation or resettlement or safety out of the country, and they too can use our program to benefit. The regulations are still draft. We are yet to present them to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, and once passed, that whole infrastructure will be easily put properly in order. The challenge is, however, in Africa, which would be the best and most appropriate place to take the protected witnesses, in Africa it can only be South Africa. We have countries like Nigeria, Ghana and Ethiopia that have developed legislation, but it's still on paper. They have not operationalized and established the witness protection program. So we are committed as an agency to spur that First, we spur the operationalization of those 3 countries so that they can establish the program. And just like Kenya learned from South Africa, because we went to South Africa and learned how do they do it. And the Witness Protection Program in South Africa is based within the Directorate of Public Prosecution. Ours is independent of that. And we learned and we came and established. And we have grown. And we have possibly a much more robust management, witness protection management program. So we are ready to support our sister states, our brother states in Africa to operationalize the program. Those who do not have the law, have drafts or are thinking about it, we are also ready and willing to support them. And we have already received a request from some countries. Please help us think through this process, because it's very important to curb the culture of impunity in various countries. Yeah,
I assume it costs something.
It is very expensive.
So when you say that your office is independent, is it independent budget-wise as well?
Yes.
So you have a direct vote?
We have a direct vote from the Consolidated Fund. We manage our budget. The operations are solely us who decide how to manage that, and that is very important. First, in terms of the security of the witnesses, because the Witness Protection Program operates in a very covert environment, very confidential, and you'll have people asking, do you really exist? We do. You may not touch us, but we can touch you. We have to ensure that we are flexible in the management of those resources, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Something critical may happen. People need witness protection. We are also very accountable in terms of how we do it. We may not speak out there, but we have to ensure that everything is working together to ensure that all vulnerable witnesses who approach us and meet our criteria are able to be protected with the best protection measures that they deserve. And we go to the High Court to seek that special protection measure in a very quiet, confidential way.
You mentioned meet the specification. What was the word that you used? That they meet the criteria in order to be. What is that? Because
the high risk profile.
How can you tell that I am? If I come, if there's a case and I am potential witness, how would you then be able to tell whether then I fall under the threshold for protection as opposed to somebody else?
Yes. We, as I said, we receive both. You as an individual approach us, or as a legal agency approaches us, like DPP, DCI, ESCC will approach us. And each of them will approach us with certain information, which we are going to assess, including your own individual. So we will speak to you, we'll come to you, we'll gather our own factual evidence, intelligence information, make an assessment on one, what is the nature of the offense? How serious is it? What is this information that you hold? How crucial is it in terms of assisting us in the investigation, assisting us in the evidence, because the evidential threshold is higher, and so that then you're able to prosecute and determine the case. You do have other alternatives to protect your life and your household, or those affected by that information. And lastly, are you able to adopt to the program? Because remember, the program is not a luxury program where you just come and enjoy yourself. No, actually.
Or you're not just chilling in a hotel somewhere eating and then
just
go to court in 3 months' time.
Yeah, and there's a security guard,
No, but can you even imagine, even if you stayed there in this room as we are for 3 days doing nothing? You have to really think even about your mental health, and you're not communicating to anyone. Is it a case of public interest? So that's the criteria we look at. So by the time we say yes, we have assessed your risk threshold and been able to determine, yes, you could be at risk, but there are other options.
Have you ever refused or not taken someone into the program and then something has happened to them?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Because our assessment is very thorough and is very individualized. In fact, we have had more applications than admissions into the program because we individualize your claim, your request. We do not assume on the table that this looks okay. No. We go to the ground. We come to you. We speak to a number of people. Those you will know about and many you may not know about, for us to be able to conclusively say, yes, you deserve protection, and this is the kind of special protection measures that you require. So and that's why the cost also becomes very expensive, because we do not say no to any application. And therefore, like what Her Excellency was saying about awareness then becomes very important for you to understand, one, we exist, where can you access us, and how can you access us, and is your request overstanding for witness protection.
So how does one apply?
You can apply, you can call us. We have hotlines and what do you call them? Free. Toll-free lines. You can call us. You can make an application through, we have on a website. You can walk to any of our offices. We have an office here in Nairobi at Milimani Law Courts on the 4th floor, room 413. Or you can go to Kisumu Law Courts on the
It's in a public place.
Yeah, in the courts. You find us in the courts.
But not being in a public place where I'm walking in and people can see, you're seeking witness protection.
Yeah, but you're in the court. You also know the protection around the court, and so you can, and that's why the lines are there. And you can also write to the director at wpa.go.ke.
Okay.
So you can use all this. You can use a proxy to call on us. You can call anytime 24/7.
You can tell an investigating officer.
Yes,
for
exactly.
Example. You can use the police.
Actually, we have a lot of that. Anyone.
Okay.
You can see someone is at risk. You, as an intermediary, you can refer them to us.
Okay.
And that's why we have been working very closely with the judiciary, with the police, with the investigators, with all law enforcement agencies, with the general public, including human rights defenders, paralegals. You know that we exist. Put our flyers all over so that I can, in the corner of my eye, I can take that number, call it secretly, or walk to the office or drop a message, and we'll come to you. Our response time is very, very important. And that's why the plead program has been very useful to us. Because one of the things that we benefited from was the provision of motor vehicles through the EU-UNODC arrangement. And that is very important because our response time in terms of rescue, evacuation, and relocation is very, very important. We'd rather save you first and then later determine 14 days later and say,
you actually,
but we will advise you. You can do 1, 2, 3 things.
Okay.
Because one life lost is far too many for us. Yeah.
And has bigger impact even on justice.
Exactly.
Issue of protection, because you're protecting.
Special protection.
There's special protection here. And there's a lot of confidentiality.
Yeah.
But then there are very many people involved in this chain. There's investigating officer who will know that they're the ones who recommended so and so and so and so as the witnesses.
Yeah.
There is the prosecution office, the DPP's office, the people who are handling this particular file, and there are, of course, the court orderlies. All these people at some point will definitely know Eric was a witness. Eric is no longer around here. So Eric must have gone to Jedida's office. How do you then protect me from these officers?
Okay.
Because it's Kenya.
It's true. It's true. One of the lessons learned for us is the earlier you touch the witness protection, you'd rather touch the witness protection agency and they tell you no, than touch them too late. Because then it becomes much more complicated, as you're stating. So that if you left this studio 2 months ago, people would think you're on holiday or something. We'll get a story of how those kind of things. But whether you all know that you're under the witness protection program, you do not know where that person is. We have a mechanism of ensuring that safety that protection. And after you come into the witness protection program, you can't ask me, oh, how is Jedida? How is she doing? Is she okay? It's been 2 months since I saw. No, there's no conversation. We have no reference to you. We have reference only to the justice point of why we are protecting you. So if we are protecting you in reference to this case, you tell us this case is coming up tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Give us a 2 weeks head start. Then we organize how we'll securely deliver you there, protect you while you're there, and evacuate you thereafter. So it's a very hush-hush, a lot of confidentiality, a lot of covert. You're not here, many officers saying, I am witness protection. No. Actually, if I live here and I say, I work Spice FF, please.
People will actually will say, yeah. That's our colleague.
Yeah.
Sure. Don't even worry about it.
Yes. So there are so many things we don't talk about, and we will not talk about because of that security.
Okay. Ambassador, what does it look like in terms of then measuring of success for programs, obviously, that are supported here in Kenya, supported in other parts of the world, where you say, look, the citizens or those individuals who would want to lend a hand to justice but also must be protected. What do successes look like to say, yes, we want to continue to support, programs such as this?
I mean, we have official evaluations. So you establish benchmarks like, for example, digitization. 80% of all court proceedings are now digitized. And that's a benchmark you want to reach within 5 years, let's say. Or 21 witness boxes provided, or training given to 10,000 paralegals, for example. But then, for me, it's also a subjective exercise. How is justice being perceived here? And what is the buy-in of the people in the system? And so there was an opinion survey a couple months ago, and the justice system came out on top of all institutions, on top. In terms of approval rates and respect and estimation for its work in the society. Of course, there are many, many challenges still, and nobody wants to whitewash that. But we can say, and we can proudly say, that the EU helped to get in motion a very powerful transformation process. And also another indicator that something is going in the right direction is that other countries are looking at Kenya now. They are basically on a daily basis knocking on the door of the Chief Justice to see, what have you been doing? The other thing that we're doing is we are having civil society oversight. And this is what we're strengthening much more in the second phase. So civil society has access and can look at the policies that are delivered and see whether actually a change is happening or not. This is very important to empower the society to also give an opinion of what worked and what not. But for us, a program is just a program. So you can only support something that is carried by the national institutions and the people who work there. And that's why I'm so proud of what is happening here in the justice sector, because wherever I go, I feel there's ownership and genuine will to change things. And just yesterday, the EACC, they said in the afternoon they were presenting a gap report on corruption to the Chief Justice and her leadership. And based on that, we will see where are the gaps and how can we, through our program, help to make things better.
Allow me to add on that. We all come together under the National Council of the Administration of Justice, which is an interagency, both state and non-state, which is one of the beneficiaries of the program. Another way to see the successes is that interagency collaboration, which is very, very crucial. And you can see now of their own motions, an agency is seeking out the other for support to ensure that we strengthen the same. From where we sit, the number of applications will give you an indication of the rising awareness levels. Whether we admit them or not is another thing. The requests to know more of how do we work with you, especially by non-state actors, because they are the direct consumers of these services, and also they are the taxpayers for these institutional services. So you are able to see there's more cordialness, more deliberateness that is geared towards transformation. And this is a partnership that is driven by our needs as requested by us. So then the EU, the UNODC, the UNDP, which supports the civil society aspect, now finances those prioritized needs and requests.
How easy is it going to be after 10 years? 100 million euros has been put in by the EU. Are there areas that you'll be able to pick up this financial burden and run with? Or shall we be looking for somebody else to fund?
The sustainability of it all,
That is the big challenge, but the good thing is that the government is also funding these institutions. So what this fund is doing is augmenting what these institutions are already doing. And if you look at the percentage that each agency or institution receives from the EU, is I don't think it will be 10 to 15% of what the government is funding. So the sustainability is going to be guaranteed in terms of spurring that acceleration of service delivery. So it's not that there is no money, then there is no money. Then the program ends. So it's just supporting that.
Ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. We've learned quite a bit. We've always known that there's a witness protection thingy-majiggy going on. But
allow me to share the numbers, please.
Yes,
the
please.
Telephone numbers. We have a hotline number 07077 53629. A hotline 07077 53629. We have a toll-free number 0800 720 460. Toll-free 0800 720 460. We also have some other two numbers 0711 222 441, 0711 222 411, and 0725 222 442.
We're going to take all of these numbers, and Ednah will post them on social media.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Jadida Warohio, CEO of the Kenya Witness Protection Agency. Look out for the contacts that we're going to be posting shortly on social media. And Her Excellency Ambassador Henry Geiger, she is the EU Ambassador to Kenya. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 10 a.m. See you tomorrow.